This is an idea that I've had for a decent while now. It's a tier list. Whoa, breaking the mold there. I am about to rank on this tier list all of the Generation 5, like Black and White, Black 2, White 2, animated sprites, judging solely on the sprite animation. There's like 100 different reasons to love Black and White, and one of them is the lovely animated sprite work that went into all of the Pokemon, not even just the new Pokemon, but all Pokemon. Many of these sprites you don't really get to see or enjoy. Black and White only had Unova Pokemon in the decks until you get to the post game. Black 2 and White 2 expanded that a little bit, but there are lots of Pokemon that you would only see by transferring them up from previous titles. So a lot of these animated sprites, I bet you haven't seen before, and a lot of them I haven't seen before. So we're gonna be judging them today based on pretty first looks basis, you know, very vibes based. We got perfect, above and beyond, full of personality, good job, fine but boring, awkward in motion, kind of bad, and very wrong. We got so many Pokemon to talk about. I'm gonna be here a while, so let's just get started. He's been hopping along as we've been talking here. Bulbasaur is first up. I love his little hop here. He's got a big, bright smile. It's weird that when he does that little hop animation, like the bulb almost looks like it's going up and down, like it's not attached to his back. That's kind of weird, but not enough to soil his placement. I'm going to put him here in full of personality. Now we got Ivysaur. Holy cow, look at this thing. I love the battle stance that it's in, the way the leaves shake. He looks very aggressive, very quick, which is not a word that I tend to associate with the Bulbasaur line. This actually might be the coolest Ivysaur that I've ever seen. It feels really early for one of these, but I think I'm gonna put Ivysaur into perfect. Now we've got Venusaur. I love his little shimmy. He's very animated, like that bounce, like he's like raring to go. I think it's really good. I think it's my least favorite out of these three Pokemon. I'm gonna put him into good job. Can we talk about how quick Charmander's moving? What a cartoon character. Look at him go. I never looked at Charmander as a particularly hyper Pokemon, but you know, as I'm watching the animation, maybe I'm coming around to it. You're full of personality. I don't love the little mouth movement he's got there, that little meh. There's some weird like sprite crunching happening around his elbows. I do like the switching fire tail, but he is a little awkward in motion. Charizard! This is using the same like sprite pose that like Diamond and Pearl had the previous generation, and I've never loved it. He's just kind of like hunched over in a weird way. Hate to do it to you, big guy, but I do think I'm going to place you in awkward in motion. Squirtle! Look at him go! It's also moving really fast. I wonder if the GIFs I'm using are just moving slightly faster than they would be in-game. Maybe the in-game just lags. I don't know. I think he's just as full of personality as the rest of them. I like him. All three of the starters are in the same tier together. That's great. Wow, Wartortle, look at you. I've never seen his head feathers so like pronounced. He looks itching for a scrappy brawl. This is really above and beyond. I like it. Blastoise, again, this is an unfortunate side effect for being like lifted from your Gen 4 sprite. I don't love how his arms are like laid out. It's a really strange pose. It's always a coin flip when the mouth opens. It's like sometimes it looks cool, sometimes it looks kind of awkward. I think it's a little awkward in motion. Caterpie looks fine. Not really aspiring for anything greater, is fine, but a little boring. Metapod I actually like a lot more. It's difficult to animate one of the like cocoon Pokemon, but I think they did as perfect of a job as they could. I like how he's rocking back and forth. I think it's a good job. Butterfree, one of my favorite Gen 1 Pokemon. Unfortunately, I don't love the movement that the wings are doing. It's like rather than flapping, they seem to be moving in like a rounded formation. I love the little clasping hands. I love the little feet like touching each other. But the wings are really kind of catching me off guard. So I'm so sorry, Butterfree, but I'm putting you in awkward emotion. Weedle, you got a lot more going on than Caterpie. I'll tell you that much. Part of me thinks it looks a little awkward, but part of me is also impressed that you just got this much movement out of Weedle. I'm thinking good job. Kakuna, again, it's not really fair. It's a cocoon. There's not much it can do, but Metapod felt a lot more ambitious than what Kakuna's doing here. He's just kind of swaying back and forth. I think it's kind of bad. Beedrill's looking violent. I think the wings are doing a better job than Butterfree at like conveying flight. I think it's above and beyond, actually. That's a lot of love given to Beedrill. The little hops. I was so ready for Pidgey to be a really boring one, but like, I love that. That just gives so much personality to Pidgey. Go hang out with the starters. I kind of love Pidgeotto here. I think because they're Route 1 birds and they're particularly boring in like a competitive sense, people forget how cool Pidgeotto and Pidgeot and even Pidgey are. The flapping is great. I love the talons out at front. I think it's perfect. I don't think you could get much better with a Pidgeotto sprite. I love Pidgeot in this pose. I think Pidgeot looks so much prouder standing like this than he does with like his wings out. I think the animation leaves a bit to be desired. He's not really doing much. I think it's fine. It works, but it's just boring. Again, I think Rattata could have been a lot more than this. Like with the starters and Pidgey being as animated as they are, like just hopping up and down like they got energy to burn. If there's one Pokemon that I think should have gotten that treatment, it's Rattata. Kind of bad. I think we could have done a lot more with Rattata. Raticate looks so vicious. He's got the chattering teeth. His ears and whiskers are like moving around. This looks like a feral wild animal. I like him. I think he's full of personality. This is an awkward angle. The bottoms of his wings are the ones that are twitching rather than the top, which looks a little strange. I guess I do like that he's dancing. I'm gonna be merciful to you, Spearow. It's not abhorrent what you're doing. Something feels off. I'm gonna put you in awkward in motion instead of like one of the worst tiers. Fearow, on the other hand, that's a big flap. That's really above and beyond for like what I would expect for a flying Pokemon. You know, sometimes they actually like flap the wings like this, and the other times they just kind of like move the wing image a bit to give the impression of flying. That's above and beyond for like one of the least loved Kanto Pokemon of all time. Ekans. Got like a stray pixel going on in your mouth there. The tail's awkward, like the pivot there is kind of strange. I don't know, maybe it's just because Ekans doesn't have teeth, which is like not the fault of this animation, but he just kind of looks like he's going like, man. Kind of bad. Arbok is underwhelming. The only part of note is like the pulsating crest. It's like getting bigger and smaller, which is kind of spooky. I think we could have done a lot more than that. Here's Pikachu. I've been watching him this whole time because Pikachu's hanging out down there on the overlay. It's all right. I like the ears. I like the little arm animation. It's a little odd though now that I'm looking at it more. It's kind of like I'm not seeing where the shoulder connects to the body. It's just like you're kind of moving the arm upward to the face, just sort of like Kirby style. Maybe I'll give Pikachu a fine but boring. Wow, like some of the other Pokemon were animated really fast. I feel like Raichu is animated really slow. His face is really static. No pun intended. He does have that hop. That, you know, he had to remind me. All right, fine but boring. I'm not gonna punish you for looking just a little bit awkward. You guys think I'm lenient now. Just you wait. I'm gonna be halfway through Gen 3 and I'm gonna be like, this has been going on for so long. Get me out of here. I love Sandshrew. He's just like, oh, I hope I'm supposed to be here. He's really full of personality. Look at Sandslash. The way his quills are like independently like shaking and moving from one another. He's slashing, of course. It would be a crime to have a Sandslash that wasn't slashing. I think they really went above and beyond with Sandslash. No, I'm putting him in perfect. A lot of artwork of Nidoran female has her like looking up, and I don't think it's very flattering. She kind of just looks like a baby bird, like waiting for food from the mama bird. I think it's fine. A little, you know, a little boring, but what are you gonna do? Nidorina looks kind of excellent. And I love her little, like her spines moving on the back of her. Like this is a very poisonous, dangerous creature. That's pretty above and beyond for what I would think they would do with Nidorina. Nidoqueen, huh? She's got like a roar animation, which is kind of cool, but also I think it's a little lacking. I guess boring. In fact, you're a lot more boring than I think Nidoran female is, so I'm gonna move her up. I think Nidoran male made it out of the deal a lot better than female did. He looks very scrappy, like he's raring to go. I love his ears like twitching the way that they are. Sort of the personality that I was hoping they'd give to Rattata. Yeah, full of personality. Nidorino looks kind of goofy. I don't know, you'd think this would be the intimidating one. She's just sort of like bobbing his head like, yeah. I think he's full of personality. It's not really the personality that I usually associate with Nidorino, but like it's a personality. Oh, Nidoking. He's like looking down at his opponent with his arms outstretched like, what are you gonna do, huh? I like him a lot. I think he's above and beyond. This organism is perfect. She's round. She's friend-shaped. It's got her little metronome fingers going. And I love, like, the wings, protrusions. I don't know what to call those things that are on Clefairy and Clefable. They're not usually treated as wings, but I like them, like, kind of, you know, fluttering regardless. I have no notes. 10 out of 10. I don't think the same could be said about Clefable here. When Clefable's mouth is closed, he just sort of has this, like, I've seen things, like, vibe to him. And, like, you take that away and it's like, what is he doing? He's just kind of, like, shimmying up and down. Like, I guess your ears move horns. It's a little awkward in motion. We got a nice side profile for Vulpix here. I wish we were aiming a little higher though. You got all those tails. You think there'd be like a little more tail action going. She looks good. Like, this is a good looking Vulpix. Like, I do think this is gonna go in a good job, but I don't think I could in good conscience put Vulpix any higher. Well, that's a very sly grin that you got there, Ninetales. Again though, it just seems very static of an animation. You've got 9 tails. Can you imagine the kinds of things you could have done with the 9 tails as 9 tails? I think I'm actually going to be a little harsh on you. I'm going to put you into fine but boring. Wow, I'm having such a opposite effect to this that I did with Clefairy. I don't love the expression. I don't love the animation. I mean, it's kind of cute. I don't love how that, like, thing on your head is moving. The hair, the bulb? Are you very wrong? I think I'm gonna put you in kind of bad. Boy, I've been staring at Wigglytuff for a while trying to figure out what I think is better than Jigglypuff. I'll give it that. Does like a big leap and then sort of slowly comes down like a balloon, which is nice. I don't love those like couple of frames in between though, when like he's about to jump up and his eyes get slightly bigger. Like that's kind of horrifying. I think I'm gonna put it into awkward in motion. Zubat looking very horizontal. His mouth's kind of just doing a bit of this. Have I ever seen a Zubat with a closed mouth before? I mean, I guess it's a good job. I don't really know what more I was expecting out of Zubat. Golbat's a really hard design to make not look awkward, but I think this sprite does a really good job. Those are really good flapping animations, paced brilliantly. The mouth is like moving up and down and like it's not closing, but I think that's fine. Like we don't want to see Golbat with a closed mouth. I think it's such a good job that it makes me rethink Zubat's position, and I think Zubat is going down to fine but boring. I love the little hop. That's a great hop. It's always tough with the mouths that are just like moving that quickly. He just sort of looks like he's chewing gum. Like, I'll say good job. Dude, I think the middle evolutions are doing a phenomenal job today. A lot of love was put into them. This Gloom looks excellent. I can't claim to understand what your feet are doing. What is that? I think Gloom is full of personality. Vileplume, the flower is sort of tipping over Vileplume's head to kind of like cover one of her eyes. It is causing Vileplume's body to kind of flatten for a second. I'm gonna put it into above and beyond, like kind of against my better judgment. Paris looks really cute. What usually happens with a lot of these Pokemon's animations is they have like an idle animation that they do where it's just like one thing, and then they'll transition to doing like something special. I don't see a huge difference between Paris's idle animation and special animation, so I think I'm just gonna give Paris a good job. Wow, Parasect, your mushroom is moving almost more than you are. You do just be dancing. I don't know what personality I attribute to Parasect, because Parasect is kind of a horrifying Pokemon in nature and design. Kind of similar to Nidorino, it's full of personality, and I can't deny that. Venonat is an extremely cute Pokemon that I love very much, but I don't think I love this depiction. Something about the sizing is really weird. It feels like the fluff is maybe bigger than it should be, and the animation isn't really doing much to sell Venonat's like really unique personality to me. I think I'm gonna go fine but boring. Oh my goodness, look at Venomoth go. This might be the fastest sprite that I've seen so far. Those wings are moving so fast. I'm finding that my eyes hurt just like looking at Venomoth go for this long. I think I gotta give it awkward in motion. Y'all are cowards for not letting Diglett go all the way down. Instead, he like stretches up and does this horrible like head tilt thing that I hate. I'm just gonna say kind of bad. Dugtrio, I also think is a little bit awkward. The ups and downs that each of the heads are doing, like there's not enough frames in the animation, so they just kind of look like they're jittering up and down. But I actually think it's kind of bad. No, I'm gonna put in awkward emotion. I can't. We gotta be really careful about the ones that we call bad, because most of these look just fine. The bad ones gotta be really like egregious. Meowth is looking really good. Opposite of Dugtrio, there's a ton of frames in that one swipe animation. It looks great. Your feet are doing the like same thing that Gloom's feet were doing, and that's a weird animation, but I love your little leap. I think Meowth is actually above and beyond. I love this pose for Persian. Looks very lean and graceful, but also like kind of threatening. The pixels all over his face are kind of messy. Like the eyes and top of the head are kind of like mismatching in a way. It's like the only part that like looks animated properly is the tail, and like it's just kind of like on a pivot. Yeah, I'm not gonna be as lenient as I was with Dugtrio. I do think Persian is kind of bad. I love how slow Psyduck is moving. That's perfect. This thing is so confused, and like the fact that it's so static and not moving is just working so well. His little like head tilt, like oh man, you really like you stuck to the mission. You knew what to do here. Golduck is kind of a lean and menacing looking Pokemon, and like I think this does kind of give a eerie like swamp creature look. He's not doing all that much. He's just kind of like standing in an idle position and occasionally leaning in and looking like mildly menacing. I think it's enough for a good job. I see what you were going for. I really don't like what Mankey's nose is doing. It's like getting big and small, and like I get it. It's like huffing and puffing through its nose. I'm gonna say awkward in motion. I'm feeling the same thing that I did with Venonat. I think you've got too much fur. I also just noticed that one foot is just like static there. I'm just gonna say awkward in motion. It's kind of similar to Mankey. I think this could be somebody's taste, but I just don't think they're mine. Oh, look at this good boy. He's doing little barks with his mouth. Okay, I like that a lot. This is really full of personality. Arcanine looks incredibly graceful. There's a lot of different fur like parts to Arcanine, and like they're all like individually animated and flowing. I guess it could have like more motion to it. He's just kind of like standing there in the wind when the fur is doing most of the work. I'll say above and beyond. Hey Poliwag, look at you bouncing up and down. It's a cute little dance. It's not really too much to work off of. Good job. No, honestly, I changed my mind because I'm looking at what's in fine but boring, and I would put Poliwag amidst these guys. Poliwhirl is really moving fast. I would love to have seen him like hop or just like do something with his legs. He's a little bit static. I'm glad I put Poliwag into boring because like Poliwhirl is definitely a huge improvement. Poliwhirl and Poliwrath have such similar designs. How do you differentiate the two? I think you just make Poliwrath bulky and swole and just like really go to town with that. I think the animation is a bit on the boring side. I can't even call it flexing. He's not really like doing much of anything. I think I'm gonna put him into awkward emotion. Ooh, I like the implied levitation that Abra's doing here. I do think that's cool. I wish he was moving like a little bit slower. Like I wish kind of like Psyduck made him slightly slower to make him seem more mystical or just like lazy. I think I would do it slightly differently if it were me, but I love the implied action. I like Kadabra's little special animation with the spoon. He's just kind of like, hey, get over here. His mustache is like pulsating straight, or I guess floating in the wind. I think I feel about the same about Kadabra that I did with Abra. I think Alakazam could have been one of the coolest animated Pokemon in this entire generation, but nothing is happening. The primary animation is in his mustache, and the rest of him is just sort of moving slightly. I think it's fine, but boring. Machop is stuck in that really awkward Gen 4 pose that like I've never loved. Like where is he facing? Like I actually think it's kind of bad. See, this Pokemon is flexing. It's kind of just like not really much else beyond the flexing though. I think he's fine but boring. He's moving his... Oh boy. Can I just say this is based off of, again, the Diamond Pearl Platinum Machamp Sprite, and I took a look at the Heart Gold Soul Silver Sprite, and I think it's infinitely better. This Machamp just looks so uncomfortably smooth. That's nothing really against the animation though, that's just sort of the Sprite. His head crest is moving. I think it's a little awkward in motion. Oh, Bellsprout with like the kissy face. Oh, it like makes Bellsprout look like a leech. Is that personality? I mean, I guess it is. Funny, because I think most people would call Weepinbell the creepy looking one with like the soulless eyes. We haven't seen this yet, I don't think, where some pixels are like left behind in the animation. I'll try to freeze frame it right there so you can see what I'm talking about. I see that a lot when I look at GIFs on the internet, but I don't know if those pixels are present in game. So I'm not going to count it against it unless it looks horrible. But yeah, I think Weepinbell is fine. I actually personally like it more than Bellsprout. So I think I'm just going to swap these places. We got Victory Bell here. Hope you're enjoying your Mega. His mouth is moving like up and down too, but for some reason it doesn't look as creepy to me as the Bellsprout one did. I'll say good job. Tentacle is a little off. His special animation has his head like grow upward a little bit in a strange way. Like it's just kind of warpy and I don't think I like it. I'll say that's awkward in motion. It looks like Tentacruel is jumping. Like it does not look like he's underwater. It looks like he's hopping up and down. Like the two big blue pincers, it looks like those are his legs and he's like jumping up and down on them almost like a ballerina. I think it's pretty awkward in motion. Geodude looks okay. Again, I think I would have preferred they took from the Heart Gold Soul Silver look over the Diamond Pearl Platinum. I don't know, I guess they just portrayed like a rocky, craggy skin just like a lot better in those games. It's a little boring. I don't love Graveler's facial expression. Actually, no, you know what? No, I do kind of love it. It's just like, it's putting me like, I feel threatened. He's just like, hey, you better watch out. I'm gonna squeeze ya. He's genuinely making me laugh. All right, you know what? Full of personality, Graveler, enjoy it. Golem's okay. His head tilt, I don't love a whole lot, but I love how he's stamping his feet. They kind of just took any part of him that they felt like they could move and just went, let's just move that. Fine, but boring. All one could hope for out of a Ponyta animation is that the fire looks good. And you know, the fire looks really good. I don't know if I can call it full of personality. I mean, he's just kind of standing there, but like the fire looks really, really good. So you know what? Good job. Rapidash looks even cooler. Like there is so much going on in those fire animations. Got some weird pixel action going on by the nose, but like I'm not gonna hold it too strongly against him. I'm actually gonna say above and beyond, you know, they didn't have to make the fire look that beautiful, but they did. He looks like he needs help standing up. I just kind of love him. Full of personality. Slowbro is also pretty good. He's got such a dopey expression on his face. His animation also seems slowed down, which, you know, that's appropriate. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put him exactly where Slowpoke is. What's your take on Magnemite's magnets, like, flapping like wings? I don't know what I make of that. Also, that wiggle. Show me that wiggle again. I don't know. I do think this is a little awkward. Okay, I like Magneton a lot more. There's nothing strange going on here. I wish their little dot pupils were moving around a little bit more. I think that would like make it much more like chaotic energy. But I don't know. I guess Magneton's not like that chaotic of a Pokemon. Good job. Good job. Farfetch'd, what's going on? He's doing like a can-can dance? It's like he's flapping his wings, but because some of them like are holding the leak, he's just got that one wing finger. It's like one full hand and then like this singular hand and like, I don't know. I'm gonna say awkward in motion. I'm like depressed looking at this Doduo. This poor thing. Both of the heads are kind of like drooping and looking away from each other. The expression on that one with his like mouth open, I'm like, oh. I think Doduo is such a peppy and energetic Pokemon that like it kind of just is sad looking at him like this. I'm gonna say kind of bad. I just don't think it captures what Doduo is all about. I think Dodrio really hits it out of the park. I love that each beak is like opening up like independently, like they're all just going like meh, meh. Yeah, the stark contrast between Doduo and Dodrio is massive. I think Dodrio is above and beyond. I don't understand what your tongue is doing. I don't know, Seal. I don't know what to make of like this whole package that you're presenting today. I mean, he certainly ain't boring. We'll give him personality. We'll say he earned it. Interesting case where I really like Dugong's special animation where he kind of like fans out his tail fin there. I don't think I love the jerky motion though of his idle animation with his like head and tail kind of just like Like, that looks like it would hurt his back. Little awkward in motion. Grimer is like one of the only Pokemon, at least here in Kanto, that do pulsating and like getting bigger and smaller like that, and I think works. That said, he's not really moving much else beyond that. Like, he's kind of drooling a little bit. It's kind of boring. Muck's kind of doing the same thing. He's got that, like, you know, yo. I don't love his head jerking up like that. I know, it's a little awkward. I actually think Grimer works a little bit better than Muck does. I think they did a really good job with Shelder. The tongue is moving in like a natural way. Like, it doesn't weird me out the way that whatever Seal was doing is a wild Pokemon to be putting up here, but I do think it's above and beyond. What do I make of Cloyster? He's opening and closing, but like not too much. He's just kind of like a little bit. I probably could say it's awkward in motion, but I think I'll be merciful. I'll just put him in boring. I really like the gaseous effect that Ghastly has going on here. You got all the little puffs, and even like the main body of smoke is like spinning in a circle all around him. I think he's right here, full of personality. Ooh, Haunter 2. Each hand is like individually coming out to get you, and he looks like he's sort of maniacally cackling to himself, like, ha ha ha. Full of personality. When he's just doing his idle animation, Gengar is like nothing to write home about, but then he does his little like little hop. I think the entire Ghastly line, Haunter and Gengar, like, they all are full of personality and really fun. I don't know how I feel about every single like individual rock on Onix like independently moving the way that they are. I don't really know what I would want instead though, so like maybe I'm being unfair. I do like how the tail is moving. That's really cool. I'll say awkward in motion. Drowsy's all right. I like the way his arms are moving, like he looks, you know, very mystical and weird. I think it's a good job. I think they captured Drowsy pretty well. Well, look, they got Hypno's like little hypnotist disc, you know, thing going on. That's all we could ask for. I'm putting Hypno into above and beyond. He's so agitated. He just looks so ticked off. One thing I wish he bubbled. I wish like I like the little edge of his mouth, there were like little bubble, like foam bubbles coming out. I think he gets a full of personality ranking. Kingler is another favorite Pokemon of mine in Gen 1, but boy, he really ain't doing much, is he? Like, come on, you're not even gonna lift your like big claw and do some big like pinch? I don't know. I think you're capable of way more than that. Now, you're pretty limited with what you can do with a ball. This is like a million years from now, but like Pharisee does like a little spin in place super quickly. Maybe doing something like that with Voltorb would look cool. Or maybe having him like glow yellow to like show some electric charge. It's fine. Electrode's a bit better. I don't love how his eyes, when he tilts, they like the pixels break and now they look like little zigzags, but like that eyebrow thing he's doing, like the Dr. Wily eyebrows, I can't help but love that. I think he's pretty rich with personality. Another Pokemon that I guess is pretty limited in the movement department, Execute. The idle animation is nothing, and the special animation, they all leap. I think it's kind of bad. This is pretty good. I especially love that one Executor facial expression in the back. You do just kind of be, you know, dancing. Like, this is sort of one of those, like, I pulsate animations. I'll give him a good job. Ooh. I was about to judge you a little harsher, Cubone, but then he did that little trick for me. Can you do it again? He, like, spins his bone around and then does almost like a I'm about to trip animation before coming back in. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's a lot of extra work for Cubone that they didn't have to do. I like how Marowak is almost internally counting in his head with the bone, like when he's about to strike. It goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then he goes down for the strike. Honestly, I think he's gonna go in above and beyond. Once again, I see the vision. I think it's just the really stiff and yet limp little like animation that it's left with when he's not doing the extendo kick. Like, the extendo kick looks, you know, good. Like, he's just doing this like kind of twitchy movement with his leg kind of, you know, this awkward angle. I feel like on paper this is exactly what I would ask for from a Hitmonlee animation, but I just don't think the execution is there. I think I'm gonna put him into kind of bad. I don't know. Let me know if I'm totally wrong on that one. What's that? Y'all see that pixel coming in? Like on Hitmonchan's head, hair, crown. There's like a stray like red pixel showing up. Huh. The main criticism I have here, he's punching the screen, which is exactly what I would want. But like, I feel like they're so small. I feel like I would have gone farther. You know, it feels like I'm looking for like this, and instead I'm getting like this. I'm putting him under awkward in motion. Oh, Lickitung. I'm glad his tongue has movement, you know, like proper movement where like it kind of folds up rather than being just this like stiff, you know, movement. It's fine. It's boring. I think I'm just throwing Lickitung there. The smoke is perfect. The smoke is doing exactly what I would want the smoke to do. But like he's pulsating so like he looks like he's about to explode. I guess they do self-destruct pretty frequent. All right, well, egg on my face. I suppose that's exactly what they were going for. And so, you know what? Good job. Wheezing is a bit more controlled. It's just sort of like huffing and puffing all the like, you know, smoke out of his system. It's not really doing much else. I guess, yeah, that's the thing. Like, coughing might look a little weird with how much he's jittering, but it does make him more memorable compared to, like, this guy. You know, fine but boring. This is a great pose for Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn has had a lot of different sprites over the years, and I don't love all of them, but this one I really do enjoy. But, like, surely he could have been doing something else, like moving his foot in the dirt, like preparing to charge, or, like, I don't know, open his mouth. The ridges on him are all pretty well animated. Like, this had a lot of opportunity to look awkward, and it doesn't. I think I'm actually going to say good job, which might be counterintuitive. Like, you know, he's not doing anything very exciting, but the fact that they made Rhyhorn look that on model, which is really hard to do, I think is impressive and worthy enough for the placement. Rhydon looks chubby. Why not have the drill spin? I think Rhyperior's drill spin, doesn't it? That feels like a bit of wasted potential. But I mean, like, you know, it's a good job. Like, there's nothing really wrong with Rhydon here. I'll place him there. Chansey's dancing. I do love a little shuffle that he's got. Chansey's like scalp is like moving up and down in like a strange way. But I think it's fine. I think it's a good job at least. Ooh, I really like Tangela. Again, this is one that had a lot of potential to either be really awkward or just really unambitious. Like they could have just had like the big clump of vines just kind of be one entity and just have it sway back and forth. But no, they're all like individually animated and they look like such a mess and like in the best way possible. I think that's everything I could ask for out of a Tangela. We haven't had a perfect Pokemon in a while, but I think Tangela is just like, you know, aces. Interestingly, I think Kangaskhan is on the plain side, but I give her a lot of points for the baby's animation. Because look, the baby is like pushing the pouch down a little bit and then like looking up at his mom, and I'm like, oh, that's sweet. I think I'm gonna put her in full of personality, less for herself and more for her child. I don't like how Horsey's little snout is coming up and down like that. I don't really like it. Like his stomach is going up and down. I mean, like the fin's nice. His tail also looks really small, doesn't it? Like, I actually think it's kind of bad. Poor Horsey. Cedra's better. I think Cedra looks a lot nicer. It's weird that he's like rocking back and forth like a rocking horse though. And like he's trying to fly with them fins of his. It's a little awkward in motion for sure, but you know, better than Horsey. Ooh, once again, really nice floating animation here. Like that fish is in the water. The front fins look great. Like they're actually exactly what I would have hoped for. I wish the back fins got the same treatment. As it stands, I think Goldeen is just fine but boring, which is like just incredibly on brand for Goldeen. God, Sea King looks big. That's a big fish. Your fins are really weirding me out. This is Butterfree problem again. Where, I mean, like, because they're flapping. First of all, they shouldn't be flapping. They're fins. If it was just your back fins, that'd be one thing. But your front fins are doing it too. And that's so odd. Awkward. You're very awkward, Sea King. Wow, we got a lot of weird misplaced pixels all around Staryu. I never thought about how flexible I imagine Staryu and Starmie being. I always thought they were just like really kind of just solid, sharp entities. This makes it seem like the arms have some like give, and that makes me uncomfortable. So I'm gonna put it into awkward. Okay, it doesn't bother me as much on Starmie. Maybe it's just because like the back of Starmie is spinning and like that's perfect. That's exactly what I would want. Though I gotta be fair, because if this was Staryu's animation and it didn't have the part in the back and it was just doing that like weird up and down, like kind of flattening animation, I don't think I would like it. I think I have to give awkward in motion to. I feel like I'm being so ruthless today. Mr. Mime's fine, you know, he just kind of got a very simplistic animation going on here and a little opening and closing mouth. Definitely like prime material for fine but boring. Scyther looks really good. This is just such a great, like, battle pose. Like, I really enjoy it. And, like, seeing, like, the knife arms, like, moving the way they are. Like, I actually really enjoy this. I think I'll say above and beyond. I like the Pokemon Jinx. I do not like this animation of Jinx. She's smooching, I get that, but like just watching the mouth just like moving in place like that doesn't, it looks like someone's got a computer cursor on her lips and is just like moving them back and forth. I don't want to sit here and like slam in a bunch of sprite art. I mean, it's not like I could do any better, but I really like Jinx, and I think that like there is a way to make Jinx look really pretty and really cool, and I don't think that this Jinx is it. Oh yeah, look at Electabuzz. Oh, he looks like raring to go. He looks tough. He looks like he's guarding something, and you're gonna have to get past him if you want it. I don't know what his feet are doing there, his toes specifically, just like kind of half disappearing when he leans up. I think I can confidently say that Electabuzz is full of personality. I don't think Magmar gets off looking as well as Electabuzz did. I don't like the kind of flapping motion that his arms are doing. His head tilt is also kind of weird. Like, he almost looks like he's also giving you a smooch. Yeah, I think I'm gonna say awkward in motion. Pinsir's doing like the two things that I could want a Pinsir animation to do. His pincers are pincing, and his like mouth teeth thing is clasping. So like, I mean, I think it's, you know, it's a good job. Like, what else could I ask for? Oh yeah, see, Tauros is doing basically what I was hoping that Rhyhorn would be doing, but I think it works so much better for Tauros. I love the tails being individually animated. I love his like bucking head and like the foot. This is a good Tauros. Can I be honest with you? I think he's perfect. I can't really tell what's going on here with Magikarp. He doesn't look underwater so much as he looks like a puppet that someone is just sort of dangling, and all of his body parts are just kind of twitching in awkward ways. I don't think Magikarp is scratching the itch for me. I'm gonna say it looks awkward in motion. Gyarados, he's a very complicated, like there's a lot of moving parts. This is not a home run. I think he just looks fine. It's a really good job. They had low ambitions, but they did everything they were supposed to, which is like exactly what, like, you know, this area of tiers is supposed to be for. Great starting pose for Lapras' Sprite. I don't think he's doing much. The most we get is a little flapping of the flippers. Yeah, it's just a simpler design than Gyarados. I think Lapras and Gyarados are on similar levels, but since Lapras is just even simpler, I think I'll put Lapras into fine but boring. I mean, what do I expect out of Ditto? Huh? I feel like it's Diglett's problem again, where it's like, what do you do? I do think Ditto is executed better than Diglett was, though. The squash and stretch works perfectly for Ditto. I like him. I think I'm gonna put him under full of personality. Time to begin with some evolutions, or starting with Eevee itself. Those are the longest ears I've ever seen on an Eevee. It's fine. It's weird that the fur is like, you know, growing and shrinking, and the little sway that he does is fine, but I think we could have done more with Eevee. I think she's fine, but just a little on the boring side. I love the expression that Vaporeon is wearing here. This is a very great stance. Like, she looks really poised and elegant like this. This is an interesting one where I think the animation is doing the least amount of work in making Vaporeon look great here, but I still think that she's full of personality. I guess this is more of a good job. I gotta stick to my own parameters. Jolteon's alright. There's a bit of mess, a pixel mess going on near the mouth, but I do like that little shaking animation that he's doing, like shaking some of his quills on his back. I do like him. I think that's about as good as Vaporeon is, so I'll put them together. I actually think Flareon's a little better. It's a great pose. The expression's very enigmatic. The fur's moving pretty decently well. I still think it's a good job, but I think Flareon is my favorite out of these three. Porygon is really cool. I think they are taking advantage of his digital nature. Like his head is like not attached. All of his body parts are not like totally attached, which has been a problem with some of the other Pokemon on this list. But for Porygon, it works great. I love that it almost like, you know, bobbles in place like a bobblehead. I think this is actually above and beyond. Oh, Ammonite, Lord Helix himself. These are eyes that have seen some things, and they're like warping a little bit as he's like jumping up. I like him. I think they did a pretty good job with this little guy. I don't think I can say the same about Omastar. I don't know, like the way those tentacles are just kind of like behind and coming out like that. You know what it is? They look too much like spider legs, and I that's weirding me out. I do like how the mouth is opening in a very 3D way. I think I will say awkward in motion just because it's what my gut is telling me to say. Ooh, did you see that? There was like a flash in his eyes. Ooh, and all his little like legs are individually animated and you get to see the little bit of a fake eye up on top. This is really good. The eyes, honestly, I think the eyes really just push it for me. That brings it from an above and beyond to this is just like a perfect Kabuto. Like, I don't know what else they could do. Yeah, that's pretty much all that Kabutops has to be. I think I kind of wish he was a little faster, maybe. Like, maybe it can look a little more like violent and like unhinged, because this is a terrifying Pokemon. But I think he goes into fine but boring. Now, I detest Aerodactyl's Diamond and Pearl Sprite. I don't think he looks flattering at all, but this moving sprite salvages it very well, I think. The flapping wings look really good. I just noticed the tail. Do you see what's happening with the tail? It's like moving back, but there's no animation to go back to front. So it's moving out to the back and then just jutting back out. And that does dock some points, I'm afraid. Honestly, I think the rest of him is such an improvement over the original sprite that I'm like, you know, I think I'm actually going to say good job. I don't love his arms up. I wish Snorlax had a little bit more of a lax position than this kind of like, you know, oh. I do like his yawn, though. That does really tie it all together. And he's got a great smile. And I just love Snorlax. You know, I'll put him in full of personality. Our first legendary Pokemon, and she's hardly moving. This is like the first Pokemon that I've seen literally be completely still for like many frames. And the movement you do with your wings is a strange one that I don't know if I love. It is. This is bad. This is actually really bad. Is this it? Are you the one, Articuno? I hate that it's even a possibility, but just like the long time that you're still and the one time that you do move, you're like one little bend and this awkward wing movement. You know what? I think it's very wrong. I think you've done it, Articuno. I think you're the worst sprite so far. Zapdos has it down. I do think it's a little awkward still, but it's much better. I think what's awkward for me is that the wings are not flapping at all. They're literally just kind of like, you know, shifting like this, which is not what flying is. He's a good expression. The color is actually really good. Like, I think Zapdos just overall looks really nice. This is another one of those where I think if it was like a still sprite, it would be one of my favorite sprites. As it stands, I think Zapdos is awkward in motion. Okay, Moltres. Like Rapidash, this is some beautiful work on the flames. And like, that could have been all that they did and just had Moltres moving up and down like they did with Zapdos. But they do have Moltres move his wings, and it just really ties the whole thing together. This is absolutely the best of the three legendary birds. I think this is above and beyond. We've almost completed Gen 1. Dratini is okay. Very cute. I love the starry little eyes. This like movement that he's doing is just sort of like a little awkward. I don't think I'm going to hold it against Dratini. I think I'm going to just put him into boring. This is a quite beautiful looking Dragonair. It's a shame that the head is just sort of on a like, it's almost like an animatronic that you would expect to see at like a theme park. They're sprites. I feel like every time I've like shot down a sprite for not being more, I feel like, well, what else did you expect? I do think that Dragonair looks quite graceful. I like the little movement on the wings on his head. I think it's enough to put Dragonair into a good job. I actually think Dragonite came out looking really, really nice. This is a very orange Dragonite, like more orange than I feel like Dragonite usually is. He's got that same just sort of bounce, but I think, you know, for Dragonite being sort of this like bouncy, friendly dragon, like I think it fits. I think I like him. I'll put him in a good job right next to Dragonair. All right, Mewtwo. Stiff. Again, maybe the expectation's higher just because it's Mewtwo, and like I feel like Mewtwo should be like one of the coolest ones here, but you know, he's kind of T-posing a little bit, and like the one animation he's got, he just sort of bends his tail back. I don't know. I know there are some later Pokemon that just do much cooler things that they could have spread some of that love to Mewtwo. So I hate to do it to you, man, but fine but boring. And the final Gen 1 Pokemon is Mew. I don't love how that tail go. It's like Mew's tail is multi-jointed, and like that's just an awful thought. Beyond that, there's just a ton of like pixel destruction going on that tail, because it's so thin. Quite possibly just a very difficult design to make work in this format, but I will say that it is a bit awkward in motion. Okay, I have been recording for a really long time already, and that is Gen 1. We've got like 4 to go, so let's head to Gen 2 and maybe rapid fire a little bit. Chikorita, what is this? Why are you moving at like 2 frames per second? Chikorita here looks like she is lagging. I can't believe it. This is the first Gen 2 Pokemon, but you know what? Very wrong. Bayleaf actually has a lot of animation going on. Stands on his front legs, stands on his hind legs, he's got his wagging tail, and the big leaf on his head is moving. Bayleaf is full of personality. It's a very beautifully colored Meganium sprite, and I love the big feet just going bam, bam, bam. Other than that, he's just rocking out, like he's doing like headbangs on his big neck. I think Meganium is just as good as Bayleaf. I don't think I could have asked for better out of Cyndaquil. It's a different kind of fire than like Ponyta, Rapidash, and Moltres. It's more of like a sparking flame. I actually think Cyndaquil is perfect. Shockingly, Quilava might also be perfect. I love this pose. Like, I love when Quilava is in this particular stance rather than standing on his hind legs. I mean, like, yeah, like this is perfect, I think. Typhlosion drops the ball. The fire is not nearly as intense, which seems strange given that this is the final stage. The way his hands are just sort of drooping there. This one's just awkward in motion. Totodile should absolutely have as much energy as like Charmander did. It's not that, which is unfortunate. I think the hop puts Totodile into good job. Proportion wise, this is a really cool Crocodile sprite. I love how big that jaw looks. He doesn't open it though, which is a shame. I'll put him into good job. Boy, does Feraligatr look cool. This is a great sprite for him. He looks big and powerful. The animation is a little unambitious. You know, I think all of the Totodile line gets to be right next to one another in good job. Boy, look at those ears go. I think it makes Sentret's tail look too much like a stiff, solid object. I think all the elements come together to give it a good job. The way Furret's head is like scrunching into itself like a turtle. Also, Furret's really yellow. Is Furret usually this yellow of a Pokemon? I do think she's a little bit awkward in motion. So it starts off a little unambitious and a very questionable little eyebrow movement, but then Hoot Hoot really gets a moving, hopping up and down. I think I'm comfortable putting Hoot Hoot up there. I wish I could say the same for Noctowl, because I also love Noctowl, but like, boy, that one head tilt, like there's so many misplaced pixels there that it just turns Noctowl's head into a mess. I do think it's a bit awkward in motion. Ladybug, stop. Ladybug, stop. That's so fast, Ladybug. You gotta stop. There's no way Ladybug moves that fast in game. There's just no way. If he's moving at normal speed, I put him into fine but boring. If he does actually move at that speed, he goes into very wrong. See, Ledion's fine. The wings on Ledion are very interesting, which is good because the rest of his body is doing absolutely nothing. I think I'll put Ledion into good job. Spinnerack's pretty good. Every single leg is individually animated, which is great, and he does a little like shimmy. You know, Spinnerack doesn't have a ton of personality, but I think they actually showcase quite a bit of it here. So yeah, very good job, Spinnerack. Ariados is a little awkward for me. Just like Chikorita, I feel like I'm looking at a Pokemon with less frames than a lot of these other Pokemon have frames. I mean, if Chikorita gets the frame punishment in very wrong, I think I do have to give it to Ariados as well, even though I think that Chikorita was a lot more of an egregious case. Some of these Pokemon have a hard time having natural flying animations with 2 wings. Crobat's got 4 wings, and honestly, I think he looks pretty good. Yeah, I actually think that the wing work is good enough to put Crobat into above and beyond. If there's one thing that I could have asked for out of a Chinchou animated sprite, is the shining bulbs like coming like brighter and dimmer, and they did succeed in that, and that makes me very happy. I think that the bulbs by themselves put Chinchou into above and beyond, and I bet Lantern will be similar. Wow, yes, but also like a very different way of portraying it. Instead of like a very dim glow. We have a very bright, constant blink going on. Yeah, I think Lantern also gets to be in Above and Beyond. Pichu, did you steal the frames from Chikorita and Ariados? That jump is impeccable. Like, you look so much better than Pikachu and Raichu that it's almost uncanny. I think Pichu gets a perfect score. Cleffa doesn't get the same amount of love. I hate that that thing on top of Cleffa's head is like pulsating. That's ew. I think I'm gonna put Cleffa under Awkward in Motion. Igglybuff. Again, like, that's such a great swaying in the air motion. Like that looks more balloon than anything Jigglypuff or Wigglytuff tried to do. I do think that this is really good. I'm gonna put Igglybuff right into Above and Beyond. I'm struggling to tell. It might be Pixel Mess, but I think that Togepi is actually closing its eyes. We actually have a Pokemon with an expression change. It's extremely unique. See, this is exactly the kind of Pokemon that I'm talking about. You would never see this Pokemon. You would never see like Togepi just doing this like fun little dance. Like, it's great. Yeah, you go into Above and Beyond just like Igglybuff. Togetic is pretty good too. Like, not as full of personality as Togepi had, but the jump is really nice, and the little fluttering wings in the back are good too. I think Togetic gets to be in Good Job. Nadu looks like you're pausing and rewinding this animation a little bit. It looks like he's gonna halfway through an animation, he stops and that goes back and does it again. Still though, there's a lot of like moving parts going on here and a lot happening, like the legs and beak and like the little wing I think are really well done. So I think I'm just gonna say that Nadu looks awkward in motion. Zadu is hard to like show flying in a way that makes the wings look real. They're just a really awkward shape. I think this one does a really good job. I think Zadu gets an Above and Beyond. Dude, Johto has been really kind of killing it. How can I judge Marie poorly? This is like one of the cutest Pokemon ever invented. I would have loved to have seen his tail blinking in the same way that like Chinchou's bulbs blinked. Hey, it's a good job. Are you kidding me, Flaffy? Flaffy, this is way too fast. Unlike Ladybot, I literally can't even grasp what Flaffy is supposed to be doing here because it's just going so fast. I'm gonna put Flaffy into Awkward in Motion. I don't think that Flaffy deserves it. I can't tell. Ooh, that like weird cross of the arm. Like, do you see what I'm seeing? When the arm like changes direction, it's pretty awkward. Yeah, that arm is really sticking out like a sore thumb and kind of bringing the design down with it. So I'm gonna put Ampharos with his hyperactive little brother. I'm in love. The dance is really well animated. Like, the arms are moving in such a deliberate way. It doesn't just feel like random swaying. I think Blossom is perfect. Peekaboo looks pretty good. Kind of too much action on the ears, I'll admit. But it looks very bouncy and fun, you know, very full of personality. So, you know, we got a tier for that. And I think Azumarill as well. I mean, that's a great facial expression for one thing. Maybe if, like, the ear, like, went up and down, kind of like that one part that's folded. But, like, hey, I think that's pretty good. I think you can go over with Meryl. The Pokemon that should have been still as a brick wall should have been Sudowoodo. That said, that's a pretty good dance you got there. I don't love that little bend that you do as your special animation. That's a little off. Yeah, you're pretty full of personality, and I cannot deny it. I really love Politoed here. Like, the jumps look really spectacular. I love the little croak that he does. I would have loved if they would somehow manage to like sneak him like sticking out his long tongue and bringing it back in, but I don't know, maybe that would have come across as awkward. I feel like the opposite of Gen 1, where suddenly I'm being incredibly gracious, but you know what? I'm putting Politoed into perfect and you can't stop me. Wow, Hoppip gets a lot of air. It's really nice. Like, maybe if like the leaves were spinning, because like I think that's how Hoppip's wings leaves work. Like, they kind of like spin helicopter style. As is, I think Hoppip looks just fine. Skiploom is a step down, I think. Look at it again, I'm seeing like the little kicking feet. You know, I'm taking it back. I think Skiploom gets to be in Good Job as well. Another favorite Pokemon of mine, Jumpluff. This give has some really bad pixel tearing. Like, whole parts are being left behind, like almost an entire part of its body. Pollen looks really nice. I love that there's like tiny little pixel particles coming off of it. Yeah, I think the entire Hoppip line gets to hang out together in Good Job. Those eyes. Look at those eyes. I don't think Apom's eyes normally look like that. Does he normally look this deranged? I'm not comfortable. I think Apom goes into very wrong. Sunkern is an example of a Pokemon that you will see in the Unova region. It's a very early encounter in Black 2 and White 2. So I'm really endeared to Sunkern and Sunflora's animations in this game. That said, there isn't really much going on here. Fine, but boring, absolutely. I definitely don't think Sunflora moves this fast usually, but you know, Sunflora is kind of hyper. You know, she's charged by the sun. So, you know, I think it's a good job. Yanma really looks like he's flying like a dragonfly would. I mean, this is a Pokemon that would have done great going fast. But even at this speed, I really like it. Like, there's a lot more to Yanma's design than it looks on the surface. I think they went above and beyond. I mean, how could you not love that grin? Oh my goodness. By all accounts, I should put this into fine but boring. There's like nothing going on in Wooper's animation, but darn it, I think he gets a good job. Quagsire looks like he's getting ready for a hug. He's sort of just like flailing a bit in place, but like that face is so endearing to me. I think Quagsire is even better than Wooper. You get to go into full of personality. Espeon's really nice. I appreciate that one front paw that's up in the air, they allowed Espeon to like put it down so it wasn't always just awkwardly in the air. You got kind of a multi-jointed tail thing going on, very similar to what Mew had, which is a shame. But I do think that this is really good. I think it's just as good as all the evolutions that we have seen so far. If they made Umbreon's rings and stripes shine like Chinchou's, this I think would have been a perfect. As is, it really is just boring. He's not doing much beyond just like nodding his head and kind of moving his body up and down. I hate to separate one evolution from the rest, but Umbreon just feels so undercooked comparatively. I kind of like Murkrow here, even though his foot is stuck in the air unlike Espeon. You know, I kind of like the sort of balancing that he's doing, and he's just kind of going like, ah, that's pretty good. I think it's a good job. Slowking looks so pleased with himself. I love him like having his arms behind his back and just being like, I do think it's very full of personality. Sometimes the expression just really does a ton of work. I love Mischievous. I wish that they got a little bit more creative in like the head strands. The bottom of Mischievous's body is actually perfectly animated. I wish the top was just as flowy as the bottom. As is, I think it's a good job. I think all of the Unknown are individually animated, like every form has different animation. I'll place them on the screen right now because I don't have these Unknown in front of me in the folder that I'm taking these all from. But the fact that they went to such lengths is like the pure definition of above and beyond. So even though I'm not looking at the other Unknowns right now, I'm very confident that Unknown can be up there. Congratulations, Unknown. That's probably the highest tier placement you've gotten on any tier list ever made. Wobbuffet's just about to say, I wish you did the salute, but then in a blink and you miss it moment, he did the salute. Yeah, and that's a good job for me. Ooh, look at this. First of all, proportion-wise, Girafarig looks great here, totally on model. I love the constant, like, crunching the tail mouth is doing. And to top it all off, Girafarig jumps up on his hind legs for a second there. Dude, this is perfect. I don't think Girafarig could have done better if it tried. Something's off here with Pineco, though. There's something about the hopping that just looks off to me. Maybe just because like these bottom parts here are a different color than the top, or like sticking out maybe slightly too far. Kind of awkward. I don't know how much I like it. Fortress is pretty good. I like the appendages kind of coming out and in constantly. The big kind of clam shell is like changing and how much it's open and closed. I think I'm gonna put Fortress into good job. Dunsparce isn't really trying to be much. I mean, I guess Dunsparce really isn't much. I wish he like tried to like get off the ground flapping his wings, but like he couldn't fly, so he just kind of drops back down. It's boring. There's a part of me that's like, I think Gligar should really be flying, but you know what? If you're gonna have him on the ground, this is exactly what you do with him. Just doing this like mischievous little taunting dance and like sticking his tongue out. This is very much full of personality. Steelix looks light as a feather, and that really shouldn't be the case. Like, at least Onix looked like he was firmly on the ground. Steelix looks like he's floating in the air. It's well animated, so I'm not gonna put it into very wrong. My critique is that I just don't think Steelix should be moving like that. So this is a prime candidate for awkward in motion. Snubble's decent. I like his little like little bite that he does. What a crazy looking Pokemon. The more I look at, I don't see Snubbull too often, but I'm just like, man, what a guy. I think it's a pretty full personality. That's a great expression for Gramble. And I like the sort of put him up like fists that he's doing. I think Gramble is full of personality. Qwilfish is, you know, floaty enough, and I do like that he expands and contracts. But I don't know. I think they could have pushed it a little bit farther to have made Qwilfish a little more interesting, as tough of a job as that is. I think Qwilfish goes into fine but boring. Scissor's perfect. I'm just gonna say that like outright. Proportion-wise, he's great. I love the wing animation and how quick it is. You know, he's got his claws going open and close. Even one of them is just kind of jutting forward like a bullet punch. He's so vibrant and shiny. Like, this is just like the best looking like red Pokemon. Like, I love this. Scizor absolutely gets a perfect ranking. Shuckle's interesting. I like that the rock part is like a solid object, then like the only parts that are moving are like the parts of Shuckle itself. I don't really think there's anything wrong with Shuckle here. I just think it's a nice standard good job. Another favorite Pokemon of mine, Heracross. They're trying to do like an upward stabbing motion with his Mega Horn. I don't think it has the intended look that they were hoping for. I guess he's fine, but he's boring. Okay, putting aside the animation for a second, Sneasel looks incredible. This is very on point. I love the colors. I love the expression. It's a shame that when we get a sprite that looks as good as this, the animation is just kind of plain and whatever. He's kind of just very awkward in motion. I don't think Sneasel is rising to the occasion. Teddiursa is just adorable. That is a lovely expression. Your foot's disappearing, which is you know, an issue. Like, maybe I'd see a doctor about that. But I mean, beyond that, you're okay. You know, just a little boring. Ursaring, however, looks great. This is a Pokemon that I love when he's shown as powerfully as possible. I don't like his 3D model where like he's just kind of standing there hunched over and doesn't look very interested in things. Here he's like sprawled out. He's making himself look as big as possible, and he's got a mighty roar. Above and beyond. Slugma's all right. I really think I would have loved to see some like bubbling fires and even really all that animated on the top. I guess they got a little bit of drip going on right there, but just like unexciting. Magcargo is definitely better. The gloopiness is a little bit more pronounced, which I like. This is a gloopy Pokemon. You know, it's not shooting for the moon, but I definitely like it a little bit more than Slugma. An unbelievably cute Pokemon, Swinub. I want a Swinub hat so bad. They're doing the same thing with like what they try to do with Mankey with the pig nose, but I think it works better for Swinub here. Beyond that, there's like not much more you can do with Swinub, I suppose. He's just kind of pulsating. I hate every time I have to use the word pulsating to describe the Pokemon's movements, but like, what else do you call this? I guess I'll put good job. Maybe I'm just biased for the Swinub line. I love the detail of Piloswine's fur kind of coming up in the wind, and you can see his tiny little pinprick eyes. I love his like droopy ears. This is like a bit of extra effort, and like I appreciate extra effort, so I'm gonna put Piloswine like all the way up into above and beyond. I know it's okay. I mean, Corsola like can't really move, I suppose, so it's a little hard for Corsola to give any sort of action beyond just like an open closing mouth. Kind of boring. It's a very on point looking Remoraid. We can kind of get a 3D effect with his body kind of doing this sort of turning motion. Like, it's not perfect, but it's ambitious. He do just kind of be staring into the void, but I mean, like that's Remoraid for you. Good job. Octillery is just like slipping and sliding around like a bar of soap. There's also a weird amount of warping going on his head that like is a little noticeable, particularly around the eye. It's a little awkward emotion. I can't deny. Delibird looks pretty good. I think this is a very similar case to Sneasel. This is a great still sprite of Delibird to work off of, but the animation is just not really pushing it. You know, Delibird is so jolly, and like I don't really look at this and get jolly, you know? It's another boring, unfortunately. Man, Johto is like starting to drop the ball a little bit. You know, I see they're trying to get Mantine's wings, fins to like go up and down, but they're kind of shrinking Mantine's like upper fin there, and like it's not giving the intended effect. But we've seen a lot better today, so I'm gonna put Mantine under awkward emotion. Skarmory's great. Oh my goodness. I love that each like feather on its wings is like acting like its own individual blade, and just like that is so sick. So much more life given to it than a lot of the really static like 3D models that it's gotten. I think this is a perfect Skarmory. Ooh, I like the little bark that the Houndour does. It's not just a simple like opening and closing of the mouth. Like he's leaning in and like really going for it. I think it adds a lot to Houndour's personality. So full of personality. Something's a little off about Houndoom. He's like bringing his neck back to like do another bark, but it doesn't feel as natural of a movement as what Houndour had. It looks way more stiff. Also, his tail is like getting all zigzagged in the pixels again, just like Mew. Definitely much more of an awkward execution. Finally all the way to Kingdra after slamming Horsey and Seadra. Kingdra is definitely much better than both of them. I like that fin going back and forth, and I like the raising and lowering of the sprite to give that impression that it's swimming. It looks fast, it looks heavy. I think this is a really good job. Oh my god, like the swinging trunk. It's the way he's doing like a little shimmy dance, and oh my word, Fanpy. This is just lovely, above and beyond. Donphan has the potential to look kind of awkward sometimes, but this is a great sprite and a pretty decent animation. I like his ears going up and down and his trunk working the same way. He does a little like tilt and shimmy that is a little awkward, but I think it's fine enough that I could call Donphan a good job. Porygon 2 doesn't hit the same note for me that Porygon 1 did. This animation looks a little bit more awkward, particularly in its tail. I think it's kind of bad, to be totally honest with you. It's the first kind of bad Johto Pokemon. Wow, look at Stantler. They really knew how to do like four-legged, hooved Pokemon. Like Ponyta looks great. Giraffe Rig looks perfect. I think Stantler looks perfect. Like that little like reindeer-esque leap he does. I could hardly believe it, but like Stantler, they really did you well. Smeargle's all right. I mean, it's just sort of like, you know, he's painting. I like his little ears going up and down, and he just like put his foot up and down as well, which is a nice detail. I think it's a good job. I don't think this pose does Tyrogue many favors, and kind of like Raichu from a million years ago, his face is just stuck in that expression that I just don't think looks good. The closest he can do is just take his hand and like move it slightly closer and back, and it just, I don't know. I think Tyrogue also looks kind of bad. I guess it would have been too much to ask to have all of Hitmontop spinning around, but at least he's on his head. The sway back and forth and like the hop up and down, they look just fine. I still think it's pretty good. All right, babies, round 2. Smoochum is okay. There's a lot of weird pink pixels that are just sort of showing up above its head. I don't know what that's about. I like it. It's a decent dance, though. I don't think it's as like perfect and endearing as something like Pichu was. I guess I can give Smoochum a full of personality. I really like Elekid. Actually, this is another one that you'll see in your black and white playthrough, either Elekid or Magby, depending on your version. I like him. It's a good angle on him. It's a good expression. I like his little, like, he's bouncing, but also moving his arms at the same time. Yeah, I think Elekid is really full of personality, so much so that I'm moving Smoochum down to good job. Oh, Magby's got a great little dance, and, like, the hop is just icing on the cake. I never noticed just how dinosaur-esque Magby kind of looks. That's interesting. Yeah, I think he got just as much personality as Elekid does. The two of you can hang out together. Miltank is sitting on the ground, which is a little limiting. You know, he's just kind of swaying on his butt and like stretches up with his ears shaking. It's all right. I think it's a little awkward in motion though. Blissey is also a little awkward in motion, though I'm struggling to figure out why. The face is like really crooked for some reason. Something's off. Like I'd be really curious to see what you guys think about this one, but I'm putting it in awkward. Now for some legendaries. Raikou has a very proud stance here. I wish he was doing a little more, because like his special animation, he just sort of leans in and kind of tilts his head back and forth. They did get him looking really on model, which is nice. Raikou is definitely my favorite of the 3 legendary beasts. I do think he's a little bit boring though. Unfortunate. Why does it look like Entei is like startled by something? He just kind of screams and just like, ah! Ah! Straight up looks like the Cowardly Lion. Yeah, I think that's kind of awkward in motion. Without question, Suicune is the best looking of the 3 legendary beasts here. He's not doing much, but like the flowing purple mane and the ribbons flowing up and down look exquisite. Definitely a good job. You know, not a great job. Suicune could have been more ambitious, but I do think he looks really good. Ugh, did you see that with his face? He jumps up and tilts his head up, and his entire, like, eye just breaks. Ew, ew, ew. I do not like that at all. You're going in it very wrong. I want you to think back to your entire history as a Pokemon fan and see if you can count how many times that you said or thought the word Pupitar. This is just such a strange Pokemon. The like top half of his body like shimmies around, and I didn't know Pupitar's body could do that. I don't know what I think of it. I guess it's a creative way to get movement out of what's essentially another cocoon Pokemon. I guess, good job. There's so much going on in Tyranitar's design, and I imagine getting it to move is really difficult, but this is just very unexciting. He's just kind of standing there, breathing in and out, and like his special animation is he leans slightly back. For a pseudo-legendary, the great and powerful Tyranitar, he deserves so much more than that. Fine, but boring. Lugia's sprite is so massive. Lugia's wing flaps are pretty good looking. I always thought Lugia's weird hand wings never looked fantastic, but that's more of a problem of Lugia's design rather than like this particular sprite. His expression looks really menacing, which I really like how Ho-Oh is this really elegant and beautiful figure. Lugia is just this dark and vicious sea creature. I actually think Lugia is full of personality, and that personality is like menace. I don't think Ho-Oh got as nice of a treatment. Everything other than his wings are like practically static, which is a shame. It's just his wings, and like they're flying just fine. Compared to Lugia, who I think had so much personality, Ho-Oh is lacking and a little bit on the boring side, I'm afraid. And finally, for Johto, we have Celebi, this lovely little onion fairy. And I like this very much. You got the little tiny wings going on in the back. Celebi itself is a very tiny sprite, which like works. I mean, I guess Celebi is a tiny sprite. Do I think it's perfect? Yeah, I think Celebi is perfect. We are 251 Pokemon into the list. I really thought that it would not take this long. I return to the ranking dimension. Let's go. Trico is the only character in fiction who T-poses and like it looks correct. I like his little jump. The tail has an appropriate weight to it. Good job. Grovyle looks kind of excellent. That little like head turn, the like quick jerky motions of his head looking the other way. I think for another Pokemon it would look awkward, but for Grovyle it's perfect. I think Grovyle is above and beyond. Great sprite for Sceptile, but underwhelming animation. He's just kind of going The tail animation's nice. Fine but boring. The pixels surrounding Torchic really don't like the little sway motion that it's doing. No emotion in those eyes either. I feel like I'm looking at a porcelain doll, and like that's not Torchic. I think it's kind of bad. Combuskin's a lot better. Animation-wise, once again, we're really lacking. You're telling me that the best he could do is just like move his arms up and down? Boring. I love the coloring done here. That's a great shade of red and a great like battle pose. There's not really a whole lot of life in this animation. Like he looks good, but definitely another fine but boring. Sweetheart Mudkip looks very nice. I love his little tail wag and his little fin wag. I think this is my favorite of the 3 Hoenn starter animations. You are full of personality. I feel like Marshtomp and Combuskin have the exact same problem. Like, you're telling me you just got a little bit of arm movement and that's it? I guess Marshtomp also has some leg movement, so better than Combuskin, but I don't think you go higher than fine but boring. Now, Swampert looks excellent. This looks like the official artwork of Swampert just like come to life. Great shade of blue. Like this thing just looks powerful. He's not moving like a ton. I mean, this is a complicated, body plan, so it might be a little awkward to move around. Finding my biases conflicting, so I think I'm just gonna settle on you being in a good job. Poochyena's expression here is great. What an angry looking Pokemon. The little tail wag, he's like sniffing the air. I think I could say that's full of personality. Mightyena, another case of sprite looks really good, but animation is lacking. I would straight up call it kind of bad, if not for the fact that he did have his one front paw moving up and down. I guess that's something. Fine, but boring. Oh, I love this. I love how the individual, like, layered fur are all just kind of moving in unison. This Zigzagoon is full of life. I think this is kind of above and beyond. This is a pretty good angle for Linoon. He's got like a small leap on his hind legs. It's like not a huge jump. It's just kind of like a small little lift. I'll say good job. I don't think I've ever seen Wormpole's black and white animation in my life, but there's actually a lot going on here. I love how the middle part of his body lifts upward, like he's really kind of inching and part of his body is going up. Both of his little tail spikes are moving independently, and as well as his like little front hands. I think it's above and beyond. Here's the cocoon problem again. Silcoon is not really doing much. It's interesting that it looks like Silcoon is standing on like one individual spike. Where's Metapod? Good job? Yeah, I think it's a good job. Beautifly is pretty good. I love that even her little feet are like moving around. Her proboscis has the same problem that Mew's tail had, but like I think it's okay. I actually think this is full of personality. I mean, Cascoon is going in the same tier that Silcoon is, but I do want to highlight that they didn't just use Silcoon's animation on Cascoon. This is a different animation, slightly, but enough to indicate a very slight personality difference between Silcoon and Cascoon. Cascoon is a little sinister, a little less friendly. So I appreciate that attention to detail. Like maybe that's above and beyond, but I think I'm just gonna put both these guys in good job. Finally for this line, we've got Dustox. I can't believe they individually animated Dustox's arms. All four of them are moving like independently, and the antenna got like a weird pulsating motion, which like I think really works in making this thing insectoid. I think this thing is just as good as Beautifly. Lotad's got like a weird floating animation going on. It's almost like he's in the air like Hoppip was, but I don't know if that's what they were going for. I feel like his legs are kind of fusing together in a way that I don't love. I mean, Lotad's got too many legs. Anyway, why does Lotad have 6 legs? I think the fact that I'm struggling to see the anatomy of like what this Pokemon is doing in its animation because some of the pixels are like fusing together, I think I gotta put it in kind of bad. Ooh, Lombre is much better. Like he's leaping, but it's not nearly like the same leap that we're used to seeing. It's like he's checking out somebody and like he's ready to like run away at any second. And he's got his little head tilt, like he's curious. Full of personality, Lombre is. I'm torn, because you'll never find a Pokemon that has more personality than Ludicolo. I think this animation does an adequate job, but I don't think it's like out of the park. You know, his leaping really just looks like jittery, like there's not enough frames to it. I think they could have gone a little better with Ludicolo's dances. I have to give him a fine but boring though. Like this is Ludicolo. You gotta go above and beyond with Ludicolo, and this ain't it. Yeah, I mean, what else do you do with C-Dot? The lines on top of his head are doing a weird like warping thing. I feel like I'm watching an optical illusion. It kind of hurts. Like if my eyes hurt looking at an animation, that's very wrong. Nuzleaf is a big improvement over that, but you know, he's not really doing all that much, just sort of, oh, it doesn't seem like he's got a special animation. It seems like he's just doing this for eternity. Fine, but boring. Shiftry looks terrifying. I don't think this Pokemon gets the credit it deserves for how scary it looks. I do like his leaves moving up in front and vibrating like he's like doing a big gust of wind. Yeah, I think they did a good job here. Tailo is all right. I get the sense, you know, I see what you're going for. You're trying to like ruffle the feathers, but it kind of just looks like the entire sprite is like suffering an earthquake. You know, it's like decent, but I do think it's a bit awkward in motion. Swellow's beak movement really saves it because otherwise this is just a snore fest. The feather ruffling looks so much better than it did with Tailo. I'll give it a fine but boring. Oh, you see that one pixel like at the very far left that's appearing? That's weird. I wanted to see if Wingull would have like special wing motion, but he doesn't really. He's just sort of gliding. He's got that same like beak movement, like opening up and down than Swellow had. So I guess I'll put him right next to Swellow and fine but boring. Pelipper has the wing animation that I was hoping to see. That's much better. And I love how like he flaps up and then falls down and then flaps up again. Like that's a good cycle. Yeah, I think he did a good job with Pelipper. Ralts looks so fragile fragile. Like, no wonder you didn't animate it any more than this. It would, like, break into pieces. I mean, fine, but boring. The thing I wanted most out of Curlia is to see Curlia's feet just kind of, like, tapping really quickly like this in, like, a ballet motion. We're not getting that. We do have a nice little leap, and I appreciate the fabric of, like, her dress and her hair threads all kind of moving. And, like, she's even in the air ever since, like, she kind of floats down majestically. I think this is a good job. Gardevoir looks pretty nice. I mean, the dress is animated in lots of different parts, which makes the dress look like a very complex piece. Every time her arms bend at the elbows like that, she doesn't do it too often, but when it does, it, like, catches me off guard. I don't think it looks great, but overall, I think they did a good job here. I've said before how sometimes it looks like a sprite is just being moved back and forth, like, by a cursor. Like, not like a natural movement, but for Surskit, it works perfectly because Surskit should be just dragging on the water's surface. They understood the mission for Surskit, so that's a good job. Masquerain is a weird Pokemon, man. How is this thing flying right now? Your top wings are not flapping. I cannot in good conscience call that motion flapping. I suppose it's your bottom wings doing it, but they don't look like they're flapping either. They're growing big and small in a very fast motion. That's pulsating. I'm gonna call it awkward in motion. I see that they're trying to make it like the top layer of Shroomish is flying up, revealing more of the bottom green layer of Shroomish, but it's not extremely flattering. Like, too much of that green part is being shown, and it just makes Shroomish not look like Shroomish anymore. And, like, the jumping animation is pretty jerky too. Yeah, I think it's very wrong. Breloom is better for sure. Pixel weirdness going on that one foot, but I won't hold it against you. Tails on a pivot, and, like, your leap is not as animated as I wish it was. Boring. Slakoth is exactly as unanimated as I want him to be. It's interesting how sometimes being full of personality means being under-animated, but in Slakoth's case, definitely full of that special Slakoth personality. And yeah, they knew the vision going into Vigoroth. Way more animated, jumping up and down, like almost looking like he's barking, like he just got so much energy he doesn't know what to do with it. I think they really knew what to do with Vigoroth. I think this is above and beyond. And now Slaking goes back to slower movements. It's extremely distracting to me that his arm and the fluff, like, at the end of his arm is on a different animation layer than his hand scratching his stomach. Like, they look independent. The rest of him is all right. I mean, he does this, like, weird little snort. Looks like his face contorts in, like, a weird way. I think he's awkward in motion, unfortunately. Nincada's just dancing in place. I do like his little antenna movement. That's, you know, better than nothing. Definitely boring. Ninjas should be moving way faster than this. If this sprite was moving as fast as, like, Flaffy's was, I would have been like, that's perfect. Is it kind of bad? I think it's kind of bad. Shedinja is an inanimate object moving up and down really quickly. His, like, halo is slightly independent, but not really. This is like a single step above being a static image. I get that Shedinja doesn't move all that much, but we've seen plenty of static Pokemon look a lot better than this. I mean, like, look at Metapod. I think this is just very wrong. Like, I think we're looking at unambition. I love how much movement is going on in Whismer's mouth. It really gives a sense that Whismer is, like, whimpering, like he doesn't want to be here. I like the little cowering animation he does with his hands and feet. Yeah, I think this captures Whismer's personality pretty good. I love Loudred here. I love how his speaker antennae things are, like, booming. His mouth doesn't fully close, but I think that works for Loudred. I love how much detail has been put inside Loudred's mouth. I do think this is above and beyond. As for Exploud, they're doing even more with his mouth. It closes, like, almost all the way, which, like, completely transforms what this Pokemon looks like. But then he roars, and his entire body, like, vibrates with the energy of that roar. You can only imagine how loud it must be. It's kind of remarkable how much this is working. I think I gotta give it a perfect. Like Torchic, the swaying animation is not doing Makihita many favors. Also, he's just kind of standing there. Like, there's not a ton of personality being shown. Yeah, I gave Torchic a kind of bad. I think I'm gonna give this a kind of bad. Pose-wise, Hariyama's pretty good. I like that one hand in front is, like, moving forward in, like, different directions. Like, he's doing a whole lot of thrusting. I wish there was a bit more movement, though. He's a bit too static for my liking. I think I'm gonna give him a fine but boring. What has life done to poor Azurill? He's just so sad. It's like he's bouncing on his tail. You'd think that'd be fun. I guess it's full of personality. It's just full of sad personality. Nosepass is extremely static, which works. He literally has two things he does. Sways ever so slightly, and that like one arm moves. Unfortunately, like the one thing that his arm does looks a little awkward. It's a shame to look that static and have the one thing you do look awkward in motion. Skitty is great. That's so much energy. Like that is playful cat energy. Got the mouth opening, closing. That's great. It kind of sort of looks like the head is like lifting from the body. That's a little unfortunate. But all in all, I think Skitty is full of personality. Delcatty is also nice. A lot of independent parts on Delcatty are moving, which is just more work than I would expect them to put into Delcatty. Her tail is doing the Mew thing, but I like how much independent animation it has. Like a lot of work was put into that. It's not just like one pivot. It does like other things too. The little like spikes on Delcatty's ears are twitching. I think it's above and beyond. I love this. Sincerely. I love how twitchy this like little gremlin looks. He's like hopping. He's got all these like jerky movements, but like that's brilliant for Sableye. This thing looks like it's ready to bite me. Yeah, I think this is perfect. They got Sableye exactly correct. I do like the lunge that Mawwile's like little hair mouth does. It's like its own entity, like separate from Mawwile. And I like the little backwards glare that Mawwile's doing too. I think this is full of personality. Aeron's good. Not really much of interest is taking place here. Just sort of like jittering a little and then a head movement. It's fine, just a little bit boring. Ooh, Lairon is a lot better though. I love like that chomp that he does. He looks like he's being held back on a leash. Like the minute that you let this thing loose, he's gonna pounce you. This is the most threatening Lairon I've ever seen in my life. I think it's full of personality. As for Aggron, I'm getting flashbacks to Tyranitar. Like this is a big, powerful Pokemon that I'd want to like show off that power and that intensity. He's not really doing that though. He's just kind of moving in place. You know, maybe it's just because he's got so many segments and parts going on. But like I'm looking at above and beyond Pokemon like Nidoking and Ursaring, and like that's sort of the meanness that I would love to see out of this, but as it stands, it's just kind of fine but boring. On paper, I like Meditite. You know, raising in the air in like a meditative stance is pretty good. Their poor arms are being like crushed in the pixel department though. And like something about the expression is weirding me out a bit. Maybe Meditite's just a strange looking Pokemon already, but I do think it's a bit awkward in motion. I do like Medicham. That's a very interesting pose that you've got going on, but he looks ready for a fight, and that leap is pretty good. I think they did a good job. Electrike is a Pokemon that's so hard to look good. There are so many angles that I've seen Electrike that just don't look correct, but proportion-wise, I think they really got what Electrike looks like. Like, this is pretty on point. Anatomy-wise, proportion-wise. The animation isn't doing a lot. He's just kind of like breathing. He does still look pretty vicious though, and just the sprite work alone, I think I'll give it a good job. I don't know what Manectric is doing. He's just like he's bucking like he was a deer. Like certainly there's more we could have done here. He doesn't even seem to have a special animation. He's just doing that idle over and over again. I think it's kind of bad. I'm not impressed. Plusle's adorable. I like how he's switching the foot that he's standing on. I like how his tail is like always moving. And even his mouth closes. I didn't even realize. Yeah, I think this is full of personality. And Minun is basically exactly the same, but the other way. I just really like Plusle and Minun. They're really cute and wonderful Pokemon to me, so it could be biased talking. But yeah, I think they are full of personality, and you know, I wouldn't dare separate them anyway. Volbeat's tail is glowing, which is great. We got that Chinchou effect that I like very much. I wish his body and face were doing anything. He's got wing and antenna movement and the glowing tail. I think I gotta say fine but boring. Like Volbeat could have been doing something. It's like his accessories are moving, but he himself is not. See, Illumise is a big improvement. Like the wings and antenna are moving, but I like the little hop that she's got. She does seem like she's moving a bit slow though. Like maybe there's some missing frames, but like my eyes are having a hard time telling. I do think that this is a good job. Illumise is better than Volbeat for sure. I like Roselia jumping up like that, almost like using her rose as like a cheerleader pom-pom. I wish that she were smiling. Like she's got a very bored looking expression on her face. He's like, yeah, you go. It's funny because I think a single pixel would have made Roselia have like a smile, and this would look so much better. I'll give it a good job though. I'm not gonna penalize the whole sprite for a single missing pixel. I've always thought this with the Gulpin sprite. Something looks off proportion wise. Maybe the head feather is too big. Maybe his body is too small. I like look at this Gulpin and I look at like other artwork of Gulpin and it just seems like something is amiss. Also, he's like really animated too. And like I sort of see Gulpin as being kind of sloth in motion, kind of like, you know, Slackhoth or Slowpoke or Psyduck. I do think it is kind of bad. Like I don't think it captures Gulpin's intended personality, and like the proportions seem off. Swalot looks all right. What I would have given for that mouth to open. Like imagine if like a blink and you miss it, just massive mouth open and then closing again. Not really doing all that much. Fine, but boring. Ooh, I'm very glad that they've got Carvana's mouth moving up and down. Like he just looks like he's holding back, like he's like wants that meat and he needs to eat it. His body jittering around is a little awkward, I'm afraid. Like it doesn't really look like he's swimming more than just being moved around by a cursor. Despite the crunching looking good, I think he's awkward in motion. I wish Sharpedo had that same crunching, but he doesn't really. I mean, his like mouth kind of opens a little bit wide one time. I think Sharpedo should be way more vicious and quick moving than this. I honestly think this just fails to make Sharpedo look as cool as he could. I think it's kind of bad. Wailmer's pretty good. I mean, that smile is something. It almost looks like the bottom of his body is inflating like a beach ball. I think the intended effect though is that he's like bouncing on his stomach. I mean, sure, I think it's a good job. I feel similarly with Wailord. His sprite does really capture that scale, which I like. Not a lot of him is moving though. His entire sprite is just kind of waving back and forth. It's good, but not great. I think I'm gonna put it exactly with Wailmer and good job. Got ourselves the Nummel dance. This is a swaying up and down, and then like a small movement with his head, nothing too crazy. He looks very plump, and I'll give him that, but you know, fine but boring. Camerupt is a Pokemon that I love very dearly. I love the shade of this like dark orange that they've given him. He's not doing a ton of movement, but what he's got I think is enough, especially the little head shake that he does. It's very cow. I think I'm gonna give Camerupt a good job. Torkoal Smoke is pretty good. I wish it was given as much care as like Moltres' Fire. Like instead it's just sort of jittering, but quickly to give the impression that it's being jutted out of Torkoal really fast. Torkoal himself is barely moving, just kind of shimmying up and down. The smoke is really where all the animation is. Could have done more, could have done less. I'll say good job. Spoink, that's everything I could have hoped for. I wanted you to bounce, and you're bouncing. Very hyperactively, too. You've got a whole lot of energy there, Spoink. Definitely full of personality. Grumpig is okay. I think it's a step downward from Spoink. Not nearly as much energy here. I couldn't even tell you what Grumpig's personality is supposed to be. You know, it's just that shimmy up and down, and like, there's not really much I could say about that at this point. Fine but boring. Okay, I can't be alone in thinking that Spinda deserves more than this, right? Spinda should be moving around like mad, like a bunch of chaotic like teeterings and almost falling down. We've had a couple Pokemon that were like balancing on one leg, like that would have been perfect. This is a really unambitious Spinda. I mean, maybe it's just because they had to account for all the different patterns on Spinda's head. I guess they couldn't have Spinda's head moving all too much because of that. I don't know. Spinda's boring, but I think that being boring is such a sin for Spinda that it's kind of bad. I appreciate that Trapinch's mouth opens at all, but I really wish that he had like a special animation where he did like a nice big crunch. Instead, he's mostly just like standing still and has like 2 or 3 frames of mouth open. That's a bore fest. Vibrava's a little better. I would love to have seen a bit more flapping action in Vibrava's wings, but they've got Vibrava mostly ground-based here, and I do think that he looks good. It's definitely a Pokemon with a lot going on, but for what Vibrava is, I think they've done a good job. I like Flygon's wings being animated, but then he does this special animation like landing on the ground and then just like looking a little closer, like he's curious. It makes Flygon look more inquisitive than powerful, and that's a cool part of Flygon's personality to showcase. Yeah, I'll say full of personality. Cacnea is very animated, hopping up and down really quickly. It's a little bit static, but like, you know, Cacnea doesn't have a whole lot of points of motion anyway. I think I'll settle on good job. Cacturn, meanwhile, looks quite eerie here. That's a very scary expression that I do like a lot. The pixels don't love his swaying, but I do think it looks better than it did on like Torchic. I think this is full of personality as well. I like Cacturn when they're turning him into like a horror movie villain. Swablu is cute. I would love to have seen like a little chirp, but you know, that's all right. I think Swablu's done pretty well here. Good job. They made the choice to clump Altaria into a big cotton ball rather than having their wings out. And I kind of like that. That's more akin to Altaria's original sprite and artwork over like today where like the wings are usually out. I think this does better for Altaria. And Altaria does chirp, which is great. I don't think it's full of personality, but I do think it's a good job. And if Altaria is a good job, then I think Swablu goes down to fine but boring. Zangoose is a good looking sprite, but I think the animation is a bit lacking. That like little head tilt that he does backwards, I don't love how that looks. I think I'm gonna give him an awkward in motion. I'm looking at Seviper's idle animation and I'm like, come on, man, give me something, anything. And he does stick out his tongue, which is great. That's nice. That's the kind of detail that I like to see out of these animations. I'll give Seviper a good job. Lunatone works about as much as he has to. Pretty inanimate Pokemon all around. I don't know, maybe an eye flicker would have been nice, but it's fine. Looks on model. Fine and boring. Solrock is basically the same. I do like the dichotomy of Lunatone moving up and down and Solrock moving left and right. The tilting he's doing is a little suspicious, but I still think it's fine. Barboach. Little stiff for my liking. Again, it's like a puppet. I just sort of like moving it up and down like this. Not really a whole lot of life in this animation. I mean, I'm sure they looked at Barboach and were like, we got like 200 Pokemon left to animate. Can we just skip this one? It's Barboach. Yeah, I think he's kind of bad. Whiscash is similar, but he's got enough extra, just like a slight bit more effort that like I appreciate. The whiskers move slightly, the fins move slightly, and he opens his mouth with this dopey look on his face. This is really showcasing the difference between a lifeless animation and one that has, you know, personality. I was just gonna say good job, but like now that I said the word personality, maybe I put him up here. Oh, look at Corphish. I love that walk. All 6 of his little legs pitter-pattering at like different intervals. It's like exactly how I would want him to walk. And he's even got some claw action. It's not much, but like it's enough. I really like the work that they put onto that walk. I'm gonna put him into above and beyond. I love Crawdaunt like leering up and doing just like bep, 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 like with his claws. He looks quite intimidating. Like this is such a giant crab kaiju. The animation's pretty good. Like I think that this, you know, checks all the boxes. It's just not as impressive as Corphish looks, so I'm gonna put him in good job. Just like Hitmontop, I wish we could have gotten like a little spin out of Baltoy. Instead, he's just kind of going back and forth ad nauseum, and there's a bit of pixel mess that makes it not the greatest thing to look at. I think I'm actually gonna say it's kind of bad. Claydol is much better. This is a great angle. I think this is like the most amount of eyes that you could get on a single like, you know, camera angle looking down upon Claydol. I love that his his like little cannon things separate, and I love that he's floating. It's a little fast. I think, you know, Claydol would be a little more slow and, you know, meditative rather than this like very animated up and down. A big improvement from Baltoy, so I'm gonna move Claydol all the way to great job. The leap earns so many points for me just because of the eye movement and his little secret eyes in there. The fact that they blink just gives so much more life to this creature. Beyond that, like his tentacles like pulsate a bit, he like sways back and forth. Like this is exactly how I would imagine the leap moving in the wild. I do see some leftover pixels there, but I think it's okay. I think this is totally fine to put into good job. Cradley's just doing the little like shimmy. So many parts of his body are pulsating in ways that I never knew they could. I actually think it's a little less flattering than it was for the leap. I think I'm gonna give him an awkward emotion. I love the individual movement on Anorith's feathers. He is just kind of like moving the image up and down rather than looking like he's hopping or swimming or whatever the like aim was with this. You could have seen a little little more here. I think it's fine, but boring. Armaldo looks really sick, very proportionally perfect. Another creature that I think falls under the Tyranitar problem, the Aggron problem. So detailed that I don't think they could just get enough movement out of him. But you know, it's better than nothing. His head, his tail, both of his arms, both his legs, they all have little individual points of movement, however subtle. I think it's enough to push him ahead of fine but boring. I think I can put Armaldo into good job. Feebas is such an improvement over Magikarp that it's not even funny. The mouth movement and I think the expression is just like giving lost, harmless, poor creature. Trying to find Magikarp. I don't even know where I put him. Yeah, there he is, way down there. Yeah, I think this just looks so much better. He's swimming much more realistically, but also like poorly, like he's not doing a good job. I actually think that Feebas is really well done here. I think this is a full of personality. Milotic, of course, is beautiful. This might be Milodic's best sprite. I do wish it was more animated, but there's nothing wrong with it either. I think I will just put it into good job. Cast form is a similar situation to Unknown where we got a lot of alternate forms to account for. This one's even more impressive because it's not like the forms are too different in shape. They totally could have just recycled the same cast form animation on all three of the other forms, but they didn't, and I really appreciate that, especially the water one. Like, it even looks like it's moving like water does. I'm gonna judge them all as one creature, and I definitely think cast form is above and beyond. Kecleon looks pretty normal. I mean, he is a normal type, but a pretty average animation until you see that sticky tongue come out. That is such a great detail. I pretty much imagine that Kecleon would either, you know, have the tongue or maybe go invisible, and either one is like a great bit of detail, because like otherwise they would have just had him, you know, balancing on that 1 foot there, and that would have been the extent of the animation. But they went the extra mile and gave him that tongue animation. Love that effort. Definitely another above and beyond. 2 in a row on great tongue animation. Shuppet's little bled like he does. That's great. That's perfect. It gives such mischievous energy. I love it. I love it. Like, it is full of personality, but like, I want to reward effort, especially for the Pokemon that are likely to not be seen and likely to not really be cared about. Who cares about Shuppet? I care about Shuppet above and beyond. I wish I could say the same thing about Bayonet, but he really do just be standing there. He's even got like a short period of time where he's just frozen in place. It's not as bad as Articuno, but it's still pretty noticeable. Like, it's Bayonet, guys. Like, there's so much you could do with this thing. Like, compared to Shuppet, this thing is nothing. I'm actually, like, gonna put it into... Am I gonna put it into very wrong? No, I'm not gonna put it into very wrong, but it's absolutely kind of bad. I like Duskull's red eye moving a little bit inside the skull. I think it could have gone even more ambitious with that, but, like, it's just nice that it's there. I love his arms coming out, too. Another great touch. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this Duskull. I think he's a really good job. As for Dusclops, I don't know. We might be 2 for 2 on 2-stage ghost type evolutions that just don't really nail the landing upon evolution. I'm like looking at the Bayonet animation and I'm looking at this one and I'm like, they're the same animation. Corporate needs you to find the difference between these 2 animations. They're the same animation. Yeah, I'm banishing you to the same dimension that Bayonet is. You guys gotta try harder. Tropius looks really good. That's a great pose for the sprite. I appreciate, honestly, that they didn't try making him fly. I think they would have had a hard time making that look good. So they just emphasized him being a giant dinosaur. He looks big, a lot of moving parts, even his mouth moves. Yeah, this is a good job. I love Chimecho so much, and this is almost perfect. But the way that the sprite's moving, you can see the eyes are constantly changing shape, and that is so distracting. And I don't think it's on purpose, but it's like constantly changing Chimecho's expression to a point where I can't get a read on it. I think it's only really because I've blown it up like this. I mean, if I make it like smaller, like you would probably be seeing on a DS screen, it doesn't look nearly as bad. So I'm not gonna be too critical. I think I'm just gonna give him an awkward emotion. Absol looks pretty fierce. I like the 1 paw up, 2 paw up thing. I like that this far in we're still seeing, like, you know, unique animations. I think we could have done more with Absol, but you know, good job. How about why not? Well, we got a lot of mouth movement, and his ears are flopping exactly as I'd want. He's got a leap. He's got some tail movement there. Where's Wooper? Where did I put Wooper? Good job. Why not? You're going into good job. It's my boy. It's Snowrun, and he looks super chilly. I love him, like, kind of bundling up and shivering. He's everything that he needs to be. You know what? I'm gonna let my bias take over today. Snowrun, you get to be imperfect because I said so. Now for my favorite Pokemon ever, Glalie. You think I would do the same thing I just did for Snowrun, but I do have to say I've got some critiques. His shiver doesn't look nearly as good. It just looks really awkward. I appreciate he's got the slightest of teeth movement, but like, come on, you need something else. I know, he's just kind of a ball. Like, what else could they have made him do? But I don't know. I love Glalie so much. I wish he was as perfect looking to me as Snowrun was. I'm gonna say awkward emotion. Sorry, buddy. See, here's a round Pokemon that I think looks much better. It's not doing a lot. I mean, I would love, like, maybe like if you like rolled back and forth a bit, but he's got that lovely face. It's so hard, you know, to not love Spiel. Yeah, he's a good job. He's a good boy. Celio looks really good. This is kind of reminding me of some of the earlier Kanto middle stage evolutions that they were doing really nicely. Proportion, this is a great sprite. Animation wise, it's really bright and charming. It's unambitious, unfortunately. Could have been more, but I think that this does Celio perfect justice. So I'm going to say good job. And I think the same is true for Walrein. I think all three members of this family were handled really well. They look nice. Nothing looks off. The animation could have been a little, you know, more exciting, but I think that's a Walrein. Undeniably. There you go, buddy. Good job. All together. I think Clamperl could have gotten a lot of points from me if the bivalve closed entirely. As it is, it's okay. I do like the little growths around the pearl, kind of like closing in, like trying to keep it safe. It's perfectly acceptable. Huntail has got to be one of the least loved and talked about Pokemon that we've, you know, done so far. So it's shocking just how well Huntail is done here. His body's kind of vibrating, and I can't tell if it's on purpose or if it's just some weird effect of the sprite, but I actually think it's working for him. He looks like a really wound up, like, deep sea creature. Like he's ready to bite. He's gonna bite you. Yeah, I think Huntail is full of personality. I don't think Gorbis is as good, unfortunately. That tail being on a really awkward pivot is unfortunate. It's a little harder to get facial expressions out of Gorbis compared to Huntail, so maybe that has something to do with the problem. But I think Gorbis goes with Clamperl in the boring tier. Relicanth has a very nice mouth open and close. There's a lot of details around that giant stony jaw, so like, proud of them for even going for it. Beyond that, you know, he's swimming, his fins are moving exactly as one would hope. I think that's a good job. Love Disc is probably the simplest assignment that they got in this entire generation, and yet I still think it looks kind of bad. It's really that like forward movement that Love Disc does, and then it gets like rubber banded like back to the original position. It's not good. Like I think it's kind of bad. God, poor Love Disc. You do anything right? I like that they gave Bagon a headbutt. That's very appropriate. A nice detail in the mouth opening up. You got his foot like tapping like he's impatient. I think that's really full of personality. I mean, what else were they gonna do? I don't know, the way the shell is shaking as like an independent entity compared to the creature inside. I don't know. It's probably more movement than one would expect out of a Shelgon, so like maybe that's impressive. But I do think it just comes off a little awkward in motion. Salamence is perfect. This is a great sprite to work with from the beginning. Every part of his body is moving. I wish he dedicated himself more to like a big roar. There are lots of other Pokemon that just do this sort of like up and down motion, and I've penalized them. But I think Salamence is just such a complicated design and one that's really tough to get looking perfect. But I think they really just nailed Salamance's vibe here. I think he looks just perfect. I think he belongs in the perfect tier. Beldum is okay. You know, his head is very much separated from his body, which works for Beldum. It's almost like magnetically attached, so like when the body moves, the head is like pulled along. I like that a lot, and it's funny how much personality is coming off of this creature despite how little action it's actually doing. I'm really impressed. I think Beldum can go into full of personality. I appreciate the little grabby motion that Matang's fingers are doing. The way that the arms move at the shoulder joint is a little more awkward. I think I'm just gonna give Matang a good job. Metagross is also really good. The fact that all 4 individual legs are stepping like that is just great. I actually think this is such a similar type of effort that like I praised in Salamence. It's like he could have been doing more, but the fact that he looks this on model and this nice with this much like naturalistic movement, I actually think Metagross and Salamence can both stand side by side in the perfect tier. How cool is that? It's the Regirock dance. He really is just jamming to an invisible beat right now. The more I watch him, the more I'm finding myself laughing. It's like, it's so perfect as a dance that there's no way that you weren't trying to make him dance. He's full of personality. I don't know like if it's Regirock's personality, but he's got a personality. Where was that energy when you made Ludicolo? Regice was not given the same love. There's like nothing really happening here. I mean, I guess it makes sense for him to be like a mostly static Pokemon. I like the legs separating. The arm movement's a little strange. I think I'll just give Regice a fine but boring. And I'm glad I did, because I didn't know it could get even less interesting than Regice, but here we got Registeel, who can't be bothered to like move a muscle. Okay, I mean, I guess his little floppy arms are doing a whole lot of movement, but they're not doing anything. They're just kind of like rotating in place. I think he's boring. I think this is extremely boring. In fact, I'm moving Regice up a tier. They're just not on the same level. I like that. Like, we've got one Reggie in full of personality, one in good job, and one in fine. Latias's like little zip around is okay. She does look like she's having a fun time. I think they're going for an effect where like the wings are being like bombarded by like a fast wind, because like they are moving, but like they're not flapping. And like Latias's wings don't even flap. She's just kind of like gliding in the air. I don't know. I think I'm gonna give her an awkward in motion. Latios is like in a similar position, even more so though, because he's kind of stanced in a very vertical position. Like it almost looks like he's standing, which is very strange. Yeah, I think the Lotties get to hang out together in awkward. Kyogre looks quite good. There's some leftover frame action in the tail, but like I love the blinking eye. That's great, and he's very realistically like swimming in this animation. It's tough with the legendaries. You really gotta make them look very good and very, you know, menacing and legendary. And I do think that they hit that nail with Kyogre, so I'm gonna say above and beyond. Groudon as well. Like, I think this is a great pose. I love that giant tail moving in the back, and we've got a mouth crunching movement. I think he's just as well done as Kyogre was. I think they both are very impressive efforts for the sprite artists. I think Rayquaza, though, might be better. It is Rayquaza, right? Didn't they just like tweet an official pronunciation and it's like Rayquaza? They went with putting him in the like ampersand pose that he's in his original art, which I like. I like his little lunge, and then he sort of like cackles almost. They're all really good, I think. Oh, Jirachi. I guess it would have been too much to ask to have your like stomach eye open at all. It's okay. It's like I can't tell if you're floating or if you're jumping. There's like no leg movement or arm movement here. It's actually a bit static for my taste. I think you go into boring, Jirachi. I think for someone like you, there's more that could have been done. Finally, for Gen 3, we have Deoxys, and oh my god, this thing looks so menacing. That expression is so, like, he's staring daggers into me. I love the movement of his tentacle arms, and I think all of his forms are also incredible. I love that the attack form is almost like hunched over. Like, this thing just looks like a monster. His defense is pretty good too. They like lower the amount of movement, but that works because he's sort of bunkering up and tanking up. I think speed form has the worst situation. Imagine having Mew's tail as both of your arms. They're bending in a really uncomfortable way, and if like this was the only Deoxys sprite, I think I would go into awkward in motion. But the fact that we have all of these Deoxys sprites to look at, I think collectively, it's really above and beyond. That is all of Generation 3. Next up, we move to 4. It's the following day now. Gen 4. Is this really how we're starting today? That mouth movement looks gross. He looks like he's got a massive, like, iron bolt chin that's just going up and down. Yeah, that chin, though, kind of bad. Grotle is a huge improvement. He's got some great dance moves. I like that the bushes on his back are independently animated from his shimmy. Nice proportions, and he's got that one like footstep, which is pretty good. I think he's full of personality. I think they've done a great job here with Torterra as well. The way he like jumps up and has this earthquake effect on his way down. Is somehow, despite how much detail is in this sprite, they didn't make any part of it look awkward at all. I think this is just as impressive as Grotto was. Chimchar's got these little twig arms that like, they just look too stiff for me. His fire tail is nice though, and he's jumping up and down, you know. He's got that monkey energy. There's a bit of good here, there's a bit of bad. Ooh. I just noticed half of his face is like moving differently than the other half of his face. Okay, like I think all the good parts and all the bad parts will come together. Good job. Monferno's got a lot of that pixel crust. The fire seems more static than Chimchar's. Not like entirely, but I don't know. I think this is fine but boring. See, like that fire is so much better. Hello? He just like stops for a second there. It's a great pose, but he doesn't have a whole lot of movement. I guess all the work went into the fire. I think he's also fine but boring. Good little Piplup. His dance is phenomenal. I'm not taking anything away from his dance. You see what's happening to his eye though, as his head tilts all over the place? It's like he's glitching out. Like the pixels are not doing this movement very kind. I wish I could put you higher, Piplup, but I mean, that's awkward in motion by like pure definition. Grinplup looks quite proud. He's got that weird like head bonking motion. I don't know what that's about. He's flapping his flippers. He's jumping up. Well, not jumping, more like going on his front toes. I think it works as a good job. I love Empoleon's special animation where one of his flippers just kind of like hits himself on the tummy. He's a proud king, a regal king. Very DDD coded, actually. I get to be big and plump. I personally like my Empoleon a little more on the menacing side, but I do think it's full of personality. Starly is very sweet. That's a great beak. Open and close, like it looks a lot better than a lot of the other birds we've seen today. I love a little birdie hop. Even the tail, like there's not much more I could ask for here. Good job. Staravia's yelling at me. What did I do? I think they definitely succeeded at making Staravia look a lot more aggressive, which in turn also makes it stronger, which is great for an evolution. I think it's full of personality. Now please stop screaming. Staraptor's okay. I like that special animation where he stamps his foot down, but I don't know what else I would have Staraptor do, but it feels like it's missing something. Maybe the yelling Staravia was doing would have looked better on Staraptor here. I think it's fine but boring. I mean, Bidoof's perfect, right? I mean, like, I don't think I gotta analyze this. Bidoof's perfect. The barrel's alright. I don't love when he does his special sway animation. The pixel mess is a lot. Sinnoh has a lot of pixel problems so far. I mean, we're only at Babarrel, but I do think Babarrel is awkward in motion. Kricketot looks quite nice. He's got a bit of a regal dance. His antennae are doing a lot of interesting movements. He's like holding up his lapels. Like, he looks very proper. Yeah, I think Kricketot definitely gets to be in full of personality. Wow. Kricketune, you were already fine, but the minute that, like, your wings come out, that is such an awesome touch. I didn't even think I knew what your wings looked like, Kricketune, to be totally honest. That's spectacular. Like, it's above and beyond, but I actually can't think of anything else I'd have Kricketune do. Even your, like, thin appendages here don't have the Mew tail problem. I think Kricketune is perfect. Shinx is okay. His face is kind of frozen. Would have loved some mouth movement at the risk of it probably looking even more awkward. Maybe a tail glow. I don't know. Something. You're fine but boring. Luxio is just more of the same. A lot more tail movement, I'll admit, but like his ears are doing the same motion. You know, he's swaying. Fine but boring, Luxio. And Luxray is the same thing again. Swaying, some tail movement. I guess his fur shakes as well as his ears, so like that's something more. You guys are way too cool to have animations as simple as these, so you're all going in the boring dimension. But Dew is very energized. I like you got the two little hops and the one big hop. You do have some pixel mess, but I can't be critical every time. I gotta appreciate it for what it is, and for what it is, it's a good job. Roserade, a favorite of mine, has two movements. We've got like an up and down pretty basic movement, but then this like kind of slight cheery motion with the roses. There's just a lot of parts of Roserade that are moving as well. Like, you've got 4 bits of movement just in your white, like, headpiece alone. I'll give it to her. I'll give Roserade an above and beyond. Cranidos is attempting a, like, headbutt action, but it's just a bit too subdued for my liking. Like, you're all about headbutts, man, right? Like, you want to, like, lean into it. Really commit. Instead, we just kind of got these jerky movements and a slight head bonk. I think it's awkward in motion. Rampardos is a similar big lower mouth like Turtwig had, but like it works so much better on Rampardos. I like his tiny T-Rex arms moving. I wish he would also commit to a singular movement rather than just like swaying up and down. I don't think he's awkward in motion, but he is still a bit boring. I can hardly believe my eyes, but Shieldon is committing to the headbutt more than Cranidos was. See, like that is a full action motion right there. Well, if I'm gonna critique Cranidos for it, I gotta reward Shieldon. So, you know what, Shieldon? Above and beyond. Bastiodon is a design that looks so hard to have natural movements, and yet I really think they succeed here. I can believe that, like, big mouth moving the way it is, and the fee-fi-fo-fum steps. It is really good. I think I'll give him a good job. All 3 forms of Burmy look quite nice. They're swaying, but I don't see any pixel mess, and I love that they, like, go from a normal sway to like a hyper sway. I think they really nailed the mission for Burmy here. This is definitely above and beyond. It does not surprise me that Wormadam is at a similar level of quality, but I think it's even more so. We've got 2 special animations. First, the arms move back and forth, which they've done slightly differently for each version of Wormadam. But then they have a second one of Wormadam kind of lowering down and then bouncing back up. It's Wormadam. Like, this is so much effort. I'm kind of floored. So I think I'm gonna give Wormadam a perfect. So far, Sinnoh's perfect Pokemon are Bidoof, Kricketune, and Wormadam. You'd think I was doing it for the meme. I guess Bidoof was for the meme. Oh, right, and can't forget Mothim. Yeah, I guess it's just Mothim's role in life. I look at this animation and I'm like, yeah, it's the same as every other bug flying type I feel like I've seen. I see Butterfree and Venomoth and Awkward. I see Beedrill. This is definitely not above and beyond. I've seen better. I've seen worse. I think that this particular butterfly is going into fine but boring. All right, Combi should definitely not be that fast. That said, from what I can make of the wing motion, it actually looks pretty good. Not much pixel mess either, which is crazy because we got 3 very tiny faces on this Pokemon. I guess I'll give him a good job. Vespiquen is quite fast, and what's interesting is she's got like 2 spots where she flies. She starts like up middle and then goes down to the left. I normally picture Vespiquen to be quite slow, but this really makes it seem like she's fast and like on the attack. I actually think this is full of personality. Adorable as Pachirisu is, there is something going on with her face. It looks like Pachirisu has like a black eye, and like that doesn't look great. I do love when she goes on all 4s and like her tail kind of sparks like that. That face though just looks so rough. I gotta give her awkward in motion. Weasel earns a lot of points from me for having that tail spin. I probably would have asked for it if it was not there. He does have some messy pixels, but I do think it comes together to have an overall good job. Floatzel loses the tail spin and in return gets, well, not much. I don't know what, like, this motion is, but it's not really doing you any favors, Floatzel. Yeah, I think you're fine but boring. Cherubi is just so small that a lot of the pixels are bleeding together. Beyond that, it's nice, but I do think it's awkward in motion. That's a lot of love given to Cherum. Both forms move very uniquely from each other. You know, most of the time with Cherum, you're going to be seeing the Overcast form, and I like the little nervous shake she does, covered in that, like, petal garb. And of course, the Sunshine form just looks full of sunshine. Cherum is definitely full of personality. Suddenly, we're getting a lot of Pokemon that have 2 or more forms. I guess this is the generation that really started to ramp that up. Unlike a lot of those, Shellos looks exactly the same. The animation is practically identical between the 2, which is fine. It's a good animation. They look cute. I think the best I could say is good job. Similar story with Gastrodon, although I think I like this animation better. They look more bouncy, and I like the mouth movement here. It's like, how? The more I look at it, the more I like it. I think this is full of personality. Our first of many later evolutions to past Pokemon. I'm so thankful that Ambipom looks nowhere near as horrific as Apom did. I really wish we had more tail movement. I mean, we got like a little bit, but it's not much. This could have been a very hyperactive Pokemon, but instead we're just kind of a swayer. So fine, but boring. They're trying to make Drifloon expand and contract, I guess, like a balloon do. I don't think it's having the intended effect, though. I was gonna say awkward emotion, but like, the more I look at it, I think it's kind of bad. Drifblim, I like more. I actually wonder if the expand contraction would have looked better here. Instead, we kind of just have, it's a shimmy, but like now in the air. I guess it's enough for fine, but boring. Oh, Baniri. You do this little tap dance motion with your feet, and it's pretty well animated, I gotta say. Your arms are a little messy, though. I think it's enough for a good job. Lopunny also looks great. She does a little pose as her special animation, which I like a lot. She looks like a backup dancer, and I like her vibe. So I think it'll go into good job as well. Miss Magius is like flattening and then coming up again and then flattening again. Flattening is an interesting movement that I don't know if I would have gone for if I were animating Miss Magius. I remember them doing such a great job with Mischievous that I don't know if this meets the hype. That said, I still think it's a good job. Yes, Honchkrow, that's what I like to see. The standard animation is fine, but like showing off that one wing is incredible. I love the facial animation he makes too when he does it. It's like he's commanding. That adds so much to what would normally be just a regular old Honchkrow. Yeah, this is definitely above and beyond for Honchkrow. Glameow is quite nice. I could think of 1,000 ways that that springy tail could have gone wrong, but it really doesn't. Even when it moves like quite dramatically like that, I think it still manages to retain its form. This definitely gets a good job. I think the dancing sprites are even funnier when they look as frustrated as Perugly does. She doesn't look like she's having fun dancing, but she's dancing all the same. I could perfectly hear Perugly's cry coming out of her special animation. Definitely full of personality. Oh right, Chingling exists. I like it. I like that it's not just jumping up and down, he's also ringing, which very appropriate. I'd go so far as to say that that's a detail that they didn't have to include. I think that Chingling is above and beyond. Stunky is all right. Besides that tail movement, there's not really a ton going on here. I do like the pose, but there's not much more that I feel like I can say about it, so fine but boring. Skuntank is so much better. I love that the special animation looks like he's firing something out of his tail, and like his facial expression gets like more intense as he's doing it. He really looks like he's firing off like a poison gas or a flamethrower or something. Yeah, that's another full of personality for sure. Bronzer's getting moved around like a cursor, but I actually like how he starts off with like a slight movement and then gets more jittery and then gets even more active than that and then returns to default. When I say I look for extra, that's the sort of thing. It doesn't look like unconsidered movement. It looks like it was part of the plan. So I'll give Bronzor a good job. I'm very torn on Bronzong. He's ringing himself, which is appropriate as a bell. I don't know how much I like it when it moves. The general pose is great, and I like how its arms are moving. Maybe it's just because of how many I've done so far, but I'm really not sure where to place Bronzong. I think I'm just gonna give him a good job and move forward. Bonsley spends a lot of time just like swaying back and forth, and when he finally does something different, it's just the smallest hop you've ever seen. Yeah, it's kind of boring. Mime Jr., however. I've talked a lot about some Pokemon balancing on one leg, but never has that been more clearly displayed than with Mime Jr. I think this captures the wonderfully playful energy of Mime Jr. This is full of personality. I was about to give some major bad points to Happiny, but then the leap where the egg comes out, that does help. Because otherwise, she's just standing there and doing nothing. If that jump was not there, she would have gone into kind of bad. But with that special animation, I think I'm just gonna give her a fine but boring. Oh, Chatot eye is really not surviving the head sway. I do like Chatot speaking and then like kind of hopping a little bit afterwards. I can't look away from that eye though. It's awkward emotion. And then Spiritomb looks fascinating. I think they've captured the spinning motion quite well, and I love how the face isn't static in the middle. It's moving and warping as well. Yeah, I think they did a pretty good job with Spiritomb. This is a pretty cool pose for Gible, and like the mouth is open at all times, but that works for Gible. He wants to jump. I say all times, but no, he does give a little crunch right there. His little hands are like flailing too. This is pretty full of personality. Gabite is drawn well, great pose, but the animation's definitely a little lame. The mouth looks nice, but the way that one arm tilts upward is a little weird. Not as good as Gible. I think it's just a good job. Garchomp is literally just the Diamond and Pearl sprite, except now he roars. Which, you know, it's a fine looking roar, but like I can't help but think of the Platinum sprite and wondered what kind of movement they could have gotten out of that. Garchomp should be blowing me away. This is not anywhere near as like perfect looking as like Salamence or Metagross. I think I'm just gonna give him a boring. The eyes are crazy, but his animation is really great. I love his steppies, this big grin that he makes. Very active, I'd say, for Munchlax. Full of personality. Riolu, another pretty standard encounter for Black 2 or White 2. I wish its body wasn't as static as it was. Like the tail's wagging and the arms and heads are moving, but since the body and legs are just so static, they feel very separate from one another. I do think it's a bit awkward in motion. Lucario looks pretty sweet, but there's just not a lot of interest in the animation. I can't even tell if there's a special one in there. He's just kind of swaying up and down. Nothing looks wrong, but it's just boring. Oh, it's such a shame we don't get to see Hippopotas open his mouth. Every time the head moves, there's a lot of pixel weirdness going on, and unfortunately, he moves his head a lot. I do think this is awkward. Interesting to me that the sand seems to have more movement in this sprite than Hippowdon does. Hippowdon's got some mouth movement, but like for how big the mouth is, it like barely does any like closing at all. I guess it's cool that the sand is like perpetually pouring out. Yeah, I'll say good job. Skorupi looks quite nice. I like how the tail bends backwards and you know goes forward above the head. I almost feel like I could just grab that stinger and just like watch Skorupi like swaying. I don't know why that was my first instinct. Don't pick up scorpions. But yeah, he looks pretty good. I like him. Drapion looks quite menacing. Again, this is just the Diamond and Pearl sprite and a very complicated looking Pokemon, but the fact that they have his like mid-body stretch upward for a second there does add a lot. Could have been more, could have been less. I think it's a good job. Krogunk is definitely messy in the pixel department. I would have loved like a mischievous like laugh, like he was just shaking like don't really got that. He does hop, which is fair. He's a frog. I'd say he's a bit awkward in motion. I feel like there's a lot of movement potential for Toxicroak. I think the main one being seeing like the neck sack like actually bellowing up and down, croaking. Maybe some kind of punch or swipe motion with the little claws on your hands. Instead, we just kind of get a sway. And like, I guess you're trying to like poke someone with your head horn? Since when does Toxicroak do that? Yeah, awkward as well. There's a lot going on here with Carnivine, but thankfully it all looks on point. The vines on the bottom all look right. Not a lot of pixel mess despite all the very tiny pixels making up the leaf details. And we even got some mouth movement. Not like all the way, but like enough. Yeah, that's a good job. There's not a lot going on with Finneon as a Pokemon, but I think they did all that they could with the animation. This is moving a little fast, but like she's swimming quite nicely. Fins are moving, both like the little front fins, but also like the back butterfly fins. Does it escape boring? No, but you know, it's still all right. As for Lumineon, the fins are, for lack of a better word, jittering in a way that does not look right or natural. They don't look like they have enough frame, so they're just kind of like jittering in a really just uncomfortable looking way. I think I have to give her an awkward in motion. Mantike is nice enough. I like the small little flying that he's trying to do. Good grin. You know, we got some leftover pixels. Haven't seen those in a little bit. Nothing really stands out though, so I think Mantike gets a boring. It's interesting that Snover's pupils are looking upward. Like he doesn't know what this thing on his head is. He's like trying to shake it off, but he can't get it off. Looks like he's caught up in his own business. I could go on. Like I think he's full of personality. Bombasnow looks great. He looks menacing. I love that in his special animation, he puts his arms up in the way that like his usual artworks depict him, but that's not his default. Instead, he looks a lot more just like ready to go. This is a Pokemon that I like quite a bit, and I think they handled him perfectly. Got those eyes, like he looks like a monster. I think I'm gonna give him a perfect. Now the new evolutions. Weavile is just swaying, but then we get this great double jump. Mouth opens up, the claws kind of open up a little. Definitely raises him up to a good job. I remember ages ago saying with Magneton that I would love to have seen the pupils move, and I got my wish in Magnezone, and it has the effect that I expected it would. Magnezone looks a lot more chaotic. Maybe also with the spinning magnet effect, which I gotta say looks pretty good too. I think this is above and beyond. Licky Licky is gross, but I can't deny that that tongue animation does look pretty well done. He looks very bouncy and plump, so I mean, nothing's really wrong here. I think I will say full of personality. We will rarely see a Pokemon that has as much going on as Rhyperior does. I think I'm just happy that none of it looks wrong, but you know, I wish I could have seen just a bit more motion. Oh, I guess I was wrong about the horn drilling. That's not happening here. Boring. Way more of Tangrowth's vines have individual movement than I ever would have expected. I love his little hula shake too. Like that's great. Yeah, he's full of personality. Electivire has a lot of movement in his like back tail plugs, and he's got this big like gorilla jump. I wouldn't have expected a jump from a Pokemon this detailed and complicated. I do think that puts him into full of personality. Magmortar's got some very flickery fire going on, and I like his like lean back and roar. The fact that his arms are down made me hopeful that he would raise one of them up like a cannon, but we don't get that sadly. And while the fire is good, it reminds me more of like Infernape fire rather than like Moltres fire. I think I'm just gonna give him a good job. Togekiss. Again, a Pokemon I love, but the pixel mess is one thing, but like you're not really animated all that much. You're just sort of very mild floating. Honestly, I think it's kind of awkward in motion. Ooh, Yanmega has got that speed that I wanted to see out of Yanma. And the way it like starts in the air, but then like comes down very quickly. This thing looks menacing. It actually looks mean, like a hunter. Can I be real with you? I think this is a perfect Yanmega. Leafeon looks quite graceful, and a lot of the leaves have independent movement, even the smallest ones. There's so much going on that I bet Leafeon is like feeling a bit stiff. He can't really move the body all too much, but like I think he's doing the most with what he's got. I don't see any pixel mess anywhere. Like honestly, I think this Leafeon was done above and beyond. Glaceon is my favorite evolution, and I don't think she was done as well as Leafeon, I'm afraid. I don't know what you would call the little flowing ribbons that come down from her head, but I don't like that they are so statically in front of her. Like they almost look like their arms. She's moving about as much as Leafeon was, but doesn't have as many tiny intricate details to excuse it. Sadly, I think I gotta give her a fine but boring. Gliscor is great. Again, no pixel mess, but the claws are excellent. They're both pinching at like different intervals, and you got the tail movement too. Gliscor is really full of personality. Well, Mamoswine, I mean, he is stamping his feet back and forth, so like that looks all right. He's just kind of a big ball with tusks, so I guess he's struggling to find unique points of movement. He looks fine in every way. He's just, you know, boring. So like, certainly we could have done something more interesting with Porygon Z. His whole thing is that he glitches out. Like if there was like pixel mess, it probably would have worked in this Pokemon's favor. Instead, we get like kind of the most basic thing possible. He's just kind of hopping there. The head doesn't even look like it's all that much independent from the body itself. I think that's kind of bad. Gallade is in like an idle battle stance, which looks a little boring, but then takes out like the sword elbow. Is that retractable? That said, it really does come across as valiant, so like definitely full of personality. I really thought Probopass didn't do anything beyond this. He just stays on this animation for a really long time, but then he like slams downward like a thwomp for some reason. I don't know why, but it's cool. Beyond that, he's got some mustache motion. There's a sentence. You know, I think he's a good job. There's a lot going on here with Dusknoir. The pupil moves, which is a nice touch. He looks very erratic, seeing that the way that the arms are moving and his eye is moving back and forth. It's like he was preparing to scare a group of people and they all scattered in all directions and now he doesn't know where to go. I wish the tummy mouth open. That would have really made this perfect. Instead, I'll just give him a good job. Oh, I love Frostlass so much. His animation's okay. I want to give it more praise, but like, first of all, the head is a static object. No movement in it whatsoever. The movements do seem like a bit forceful. They don't seem like swaying in like a graceful maneuver that like I would want Frostlass to be. I'm going to be as kind as I can to Frostlass and say awkward in motion. All right, Rotom, you're gonna be work. You're almost certainly going into above and beyond, but like, let's showcase all of your animations. First of all, I love that all of the electric lights are glowing. Rotom Mo has a bit of pixel mess. Rotom Frost looks a lot better though, and I like that he's got a jump. They all look really hyperactive, which is important for Rotom. The appliances are like warping in ways, like Rotom Heat here is kind of moving up and down, but I can believe that the ghostly properties of Rotom give the appliances more cartoon stretch and squish. Rotom Fan really goes the extra mile in having a spinning fan. That actually looks spectacular. I'm a big fan of that. And finally, Rotom Wash, who does have a bit more pixel mess, but I think as a collective package, these are all really nice. I'm definitely happy putting Rotom into above and beyond. Now for the Lake Trio. Yuxi's got some Mew tail problems in her tails. I imagine all three of the Lake Trio might have that issue. And a bit of pixel mess on the face. I think it's just enough to put her in the awkward in motion. I like Mesprit a bit more for the tails bending in that way. I mean, it is on like a harsh angle, which is a little unfortunate. But I guess I prefer that over them being like stuck in the same position. Yeah, I think Mesprit is enough for a good job. And then a Zelf, who's moving way faster than the other two. Why do your tails look like they're slapping bongos right now? I'm not sure what to do with you, Zelf. I guess you're awkward in motion. The ruler of time, Dialga, could be doing a bit more than this. I know these Pokemon designs start getting really complicated, but the best that I could say for Dialga is that he stamps his 1 foot down. I guess there's not a ton of pixel mess and the pose looks nice enough, so I guess he's just fine but boring. Ruler of Space Palkia does a little bit more than Dialga, which I appreciate. The back fins separate and he's got a little bit of a roar. The rest of his animation, he's just bouncing up and down, but like, you know, it's one step above. So I'll give Palkia a good job. All 4 of Heatran's legs have individual movement, as well as the mouth opening, not fully, but just a tad. He is moving pretty fast, which is interesting, but all in all, I think this is a decent package. Regigigas has slight pixel mess, but overall, a nice little dance. I'm surprised that you don't stamp your feet up and down this giant ancient fortress of a creature. I think I'm gonna give him a fine but boring. Now we have Giratina. Mostly a standard uninteresting animation, but I like when he lifts all of his feet up from the ground. It makes him look really massive. Let's check out the origin form. I actually love how much movement is here. All the tendrils have unique motions, as well as all of his little spike feet. I don't know if it comes across on the recording, but he does seem a tad jittery. It looks like he's just lacking in the frames necessary to have that movement up and down be perfectly smooth. Altered form Giratina is kind of plain, but I think Origin really puts both of them together into above and beyond. Surprising amount of movement out of Cresselia, who is largely static in a lot of other appearances I see her. The pixels don't appreciate when her head tilts back and forth. I do think she's a bit awkward. Fione's got a surprising amount of animation and frames coming out of the little ribbon appendage on the back of her head. Beyond that, not much to say. I think it's a good job. I don't think I like Manaphy as much. I don't know what her flipper hands are doing with that weird shaking, growing motion, but I don't like it. Crazy. I don't think she looks as good as Fione. I think she's awkward in motion, actually. Darkrai looks magnificent. I love that his hand comes out like towards whatever Pokemon he's facing, like it's coming after you. All the shadows coming off of his shoulder and head, like they're animated like the fire is. Really well detailed and really well put together. I think Darkrai is perfect. Shaman is quite cute in both forms. I like the hop that Shaman Sky does and sort of floats to the ground. I think Shaman Sky is barking, and the mouth movement, I'm gonna be real, is the worst mouth movement I have seen so far. I hate to put normal Shaman clumped together with that, because if it was just Shaman Sky here, that'd be some negative points, but like normal Shaman looks fine. I think all together it's just awkward. Finally, the god of all Pokemon, Arceus. I don't think it's necessary to have all of the elemental colors here. I'm sure they have all the same animation. If those animations are individualized, that would blow my mind. As it stands, Arceus looks all right. A lot of pixel mess. I do like the little stand on the hind legs motion. Surprisingly, not much more to say. I can't believe I'm about to give the God Arceus the boring tier, but I think that's where you belong. That was Generation 4. Get ready for Generation 5, the largest generation out of the 5 we're talking about. And at last, we have Gen 5. This one's interesting because unlike all of the Pokemon we've discussed so far, we don't have previous sprites to compare with. These are all native Pokemon, so if you played Black and White, you would have seen every one of these. I say that, but like our first Pokemon is Victini, you know, a vent Pokemon that you almost certainly didn't see. He's got a great hop and it's a very unique to him hop. Like out of all the Pokemon I've seen so far, I haven't seen that specific jump. I love that he's giving out a peace sign. That's great. That's full of personality. And now we got the starters. Snivy, good little smug leaf, great smug expression, but oh my goodness. The fact that Snivy crosses their arms and taps their foot and the head tilt is just even better. It's like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? I actually think Snivy is perfect. Servine looks like a banana. I don't know if I ever noticed that before. There's a lot less personality. He's nice, you know, just kind of doing like a bounce up and down, kind of lean. You know, compared to Snivy, like this is fine but boring. Superior looks grandiose, you know, head held high, and for the special animation it goes even higher. I'd say full of personality, and that personality is better than you. Tepig has got a good grin. The hop looks a little off. Doesn't really look like the legs are lifting him off the ground. It just kind of looks like the image is moving up and down, if that makes sense. I do like the wiggling ears, but I think it's awkward in motion. Pignite is the first Pokemon I've seen with like the snout movement thing, like the pig nose thing that I've talked about before, and does it right. Like that's what I wish the likes of Mankey did. Beyond that, you know, we got him flexing, we got tail movement, we got ear movement. I'd say it's a good job. Emboar is just so much. A lot of these Gen 5 Pokemon are going to be way more intricately detailed than some of the other ones we've seen. It's not the best fire animation that I have seen. I do like that he punches his belly and there's like a good bounce to that. Shockingly little amount of pixel mess given how much that could have happened with this look. I'll also say good job. Oshawott looks quite cute. Oh, and the pose that he makes when he comes down from the jump. Oh, little bit of pixel mess, but I'm not gonna let it deter little Oshawott. You're full of personality. Dewott is a little static, but I do love that he picks up his shallot shell. Shallot shell? Really helps indicate that he uses that like as a weapon. Beyond that, I like his determined, battle-ready look. I'd say full of personality as well. Samurott does seem a bit static. It's a difficult pose to get movement out of. Most of the movement is coming out of his beard. You know, he could have pulled out the sword that's sheathed within his leg, but like that's a lot. I don't blame them for not doing that. I think it's serviceable, but boring. I like Patrat's pose and where he's like looking out for trouble, and like his other hand is even in like this stop, like halt. I wish I could say there was a lot in the animation, but aside from his tail moving back and forth, not too much. I'll say good job. Great pose, and I love that Watchog's cheeks, you know, expand. He looks grumpy and I like it. His tail is just so static. Like you think that was a stick, but it seems like a deliberate choice. Maybe Watchog's tail is just like that. I'll say good job. Lillipup is lovely. That's another great hop. I'm noticing there's a much higher standard of pixel animation for the new Gen 5 Mon. Like this is another hop that has a lot more care put into it than a lot of the other hopping Pokemon of the past. Oh, even your nose is going up and down like it's sniffing. That's another good job. Hertier's got a lot of fluff going on, and he does a big stretch. The big stretch does a lot for me. It just screams good dog. Just full of personality. Poor Stoutland can hardly move under all that fur. We just get a sway and then like an ear wag. I will say the pixels look really nice, you know, no mess at all, totally under control. I'll say fine but boring. Purloin looks mischievous. I don't know what Purloin is doing with the paws. I assume they're trying to do like the little cat pose like this. Looks like one is up and one is down, and a lot of pixel mess in the head too. I think this is awkward in motion. Liepard's got a lot of unique animation. We got the tail, we got the front paw, we got the head. The tail's great. The head has a lot of messy pixels though. I think I'm gonna give this an awkward in motion as well. Now the monkeys. Pansage looks so happy. It's a great grin. I love him hopping up and down. A lot of messed up pixels in the eyes. We got a lot of unfortunate pixel movement in a row here. Again, I don't know if I should be so hard. You know, the smaller size you go, the less noticeable it is. I'll say good job. Sibisage. Mostly swaying back and forth, and then a very, like, stiff hop The thumbs up is nice, but fine but boring. I like Pansear's expression and the hand being near the ear, kind of reinforcing the Three Wise Monkeys inspiration. I think it's about as good as Pansage. Everyone's favorite Simisear is all over the place, really. It's a very awkward movement. It's like it's animated well, but it's just a strange movement to make. That coupled with the pixel mess, I think it's awkward in motion. Panpour, I like the ear wiggle. Kind of like the same pros and same cons as all the other three little monkeys. So I'll just say good job. I actually think out of all of the monkeys that we just looked at, Simipour is my favorite. I love the hand wave. I actually have very little pixel problems. Bending knees, moving tail. I think I'm gonna give it full personality. Muna. Muna doesn't have a lot of parts of her body that can move. She's really just floating and she's doing a lot of that. And I mean, all of her legs have individual movement and her snout. They did a lot with the little here. I mean, Muna by design has like the same problems that like Shedinja does. And whereas Shedinja was just a lazy move up and down, Muna is doing a whole lot. So you know what? Above and beyond. I love that for Musharna, we just have a very slow, very perpetual floating motion. It looks very nice and captures the essence of this creature. I say they did a good job. Pidove looks like a sweetheart. I like all the little tiny and fast bird motions, like the turning head, like the fluffing up of the feathers. Yeah, full of personality. Tranquil is a little odd to me. The puffing chest looks a little, it just sort of messes with the proportions of this bird. Also, the special animation pecking just doesn't really look like pecking and more like head bobbing. I'll say awkward emotion. I think it's the worst sprite I've seen in Gen 5 so far, but the standards just seem so much higher compared to what's in Kinda Bad. We got two different pheasants. They mostly have the same animation between the two of them, but of course, the additional feathers on male pheasant provide a little bit extra. And the animation itself is really good. I love the stomping feet. I think pheasant is also above and beyond. I'm so happy that Blitzel actually has some glowing electric charge on the spikes on his head. The sprite's moving a bit fast, but I think that works for electric types. Flaffy notwithstanding. I'd say it's a good job. For a second, you think Zebstrika loses the yellow charge, but the special animation shows that it's still there, and now it's across its entire body. Like, all the stripes glow. That's great. The tail is weirdly springy, but I think the glow just really pushes that for me, above and beyond. It's amazing how much personality you can get out of Roggenrola, who has no face, barely any appendages, but just the way that he's like swaying and then just like starts stomping his feet. He looks so excited. I'm giving him full of personality. I think they capture Boldor's weight really well with the way the body shakes when he stamps his feet. Not as much personality as Roggenrola had, but I still think it's a good job. Gigalith looks really tough and mean. The special animation looks great, but I don't know if I love his idol where like, you know, parts of his body are just tilting inward and outward, causing a bit of pixel mess too. I do think it's awkward in motion. Woobat looks great. Like the wings actually look spectacular. And I love him kind of flying all over the place there. And even the little like movement out of his nose, heart nose. Yeah, full of personality. Gosh, it's crazy just how much more work has gone into like this sprite alone. And what's weird is I don't love it. Like I think it's kind of awkward. His head is like bobbing like this. The wings don't flap as well as Woobat's, but I love that he raises himself up in the air and the wings get faster. He just kind of freeze in the air there for a second. I don't know. I'm all over the place with this one. I think I'm just gonna say good job. Drilbur's finger claws moving like that? Like they totally didn't have to do that, but that's such a cool detail. He's not doing much else beyond that, so I'm not gonna give him too high marks, but I'll give him full of personality. The almighty Excadrill. I love how big and powerful he looks here, which is funny because later depictions, like a lot of the 3D models of later games, don't make him out to be this big. I don't think he's actually supposed to be that big, but he really feels it in this sprite. He's chonky, he's mean looking. We got claw movement, we got nose movement. I'll give Excadrill the credit that I didn't give to Drilbur. I think this is above and beyond. Must have hit some shaking grass because here's Audino. She's fine, you know, she's just kind of swaying in a cute way. It's not that we really haven't seen before now, so I'll just say fine but boring. Okay, Timber moving that fast aside, the fact that he tosses the wood is really cool. I wish I could appreciate it more, but it's moving so fast I could barely see. Still though, I think the fact that he tosses it at all is above and beyond. The details, man, it's the details that we're seeing here that I wasn't seeing before. I think the bar is a little lower with Girder. Maybe it's just all the vein movement that isn't doing it for me. I don't know, Girder. I'm not sure of this one. It's not really flattering, and the more I look at it, the less I feel good about it. I actually think I'm gonna put it in kind of bad. I don't know if that's fair, but that's the decree I'm making. Conkeldurr looks pretty good with him moving the concrete slabs up and down. The way he wiggles them, though, I'm not sure about that. He absolutely looks more flattering than Girder. I think I'll just put him in good job. Gosh, there's just so much movement coming out of Little Timpole. That tail is going crazy, and like the little wiggle he does when he lands. I'm kind of startled at just how much is going on. I think this is full of personality. I love Palpitoad's special animation. He's like, ah! He's showing off all those sounds he makes. This is even more personality than Timpole did. I'm gonna give this above and beyond too. I don't think the effect works as well for Seismitoad. The way the bulbs on his head wiggle in the special animation just don't look as nice. Proportions are kind of all over the place. Like, it's not a great angle. I think I'll give him awkward in motion. Throw is not doing much. He's just kind of swaying and his arms like still in their position, just kind of move up, shake, and move back down. This is definitely boring. Sock is definitely better than Throw. He's got the like karate leaps and his leg even lifts off the ground. It's not a big improvement, but it's definitely a good job. Seawaddle is so cute. It's even a detriment that the sprite is this small because the pixel mess is just kind of inevitable. But I love that all of his tiny little hands still have independent movement. It's just so good. I think he's full of personality. In comparison, I don't love what Swadloon is doing. Weird like motion that his leaf coat is making right here. It looks really strange. And then his like shake he does in the special animation, they look very detached from one another, which I mean, I guess, you know, this is a layered Pokemon, but I don't know. I think I'm also gonna say this is kind of bad. See, Leavanny is also layered, but I think does a much better job at like keeping the one full piece together. I like the curtsy that she does and the little antenna wiggle. Yeah, I think this is a good job. Venipede is so cool. He looks ready to charge, and I love that when he vibrates, it starts at the head and slowly moves all the way down to the tail end. Yeah, I like it. I think it's full of personality. We got Whirlipede moving back and forth like a wheel. I like that the eye maintains its position despite the movement. Got a lot of movement from his spikes. I don't know what these are. Whiskers? And he jumps. That's a lot in one package. So I'll say full of personality, which is great to say about a Cocoon. I don't remember Scolipede vibrating this much. Does he really move like that in a game? That's crazy. Like, I was gonna give him such high marks. I love this pose, great colors, and it makes him out to be giant and menacing. The vibrating though is just so wild. I think I'm just gonna keep this evolution line together. They'll all be full of personality. Cottony lifts himself into the air and then slowly floats down, which is nice. It's weird, I can't tell if you're missing frames or maybe you just have more than the average frames. For what is essentially a blob with tiny little wings, you got a lot out of them, so I'll say above and beyond. Can we talk about the face Whimsicott is making? I love this Pokemon, but Whimsicott's expression looks... I'm getting Apom vibes again. Also, the way the cotton is moving makes it almost seem like bouncy, like rubber? You know? I think this is very wrong. Petalil, not as much of interest here compared to Cottony. Bit of pixel mess when the head's swaying back and forth. But the jump's nice. I guess fine but boring. Lilligant is just so sweet. I love her arms coming together as she just kind of bashfully sways back and forth. She's got so many individual parts of her leaf gown, but none of them feel off. They all feel like that they're together and moving right. I think Lilligant is genuinely perfect. Fish! I always thought red striped basculin looked so much better than blue. They pretty much got the same animation here of just bobbing up and down. Really wish we got to see their mouth open. I've been spoiled by all these Gen 5 sprites and I'm surprised when something isn't there. Yeah, I'd say they're fine but boring. Does Sandile not have teeth? Okay, I actually found a lot of conflicting evidence, but I think jury says that he does have teeth. This Sprite definitely does not have teeth. I don't think we've run into a situation where a Sprite has literally forgotten something. Like a feature of the Pokemon is just not present. I think you gotta go into very wrong. It's not that you're a crime on the eyes at all. Where's your teeth? See, there's the teeth. Krokorok's got the teeth. Unfortunately, he's got a lot of messy pixels. He does have a ton of attitude, though. That said, it's hard to ignore all those pixels, so awkward in motion. Crocodile, oh my goodness. Dude looks like a monster. There's a lot of impressive shading on this sprite. This is the first time that I've really noticed the shading work. Good job. Darumaka is so animated, and then he like goes into egg mode and just hangs out there for a second before popping back up, and even his eyes close. That's a lot of detail work. Yeah, I'm kind of reminded of Palpitoad here, so I think this is above and beyond. Now Darmanitan with Zen mode also present. His eyebrows have like the fastest flicker out of anything in this entire game. It's kind of a simple animation. He's just sort of rocking. He does kind of slam his fists a little bit, so like that's something. And the Zen mode just sort of wobbles around. There's definitely enough here to say good job. Kind of like Ludicolo from a while back. Maractus should be way more animated than this. Like he really could have been dancing, like hopping all over the place. It doesn't look bad. I do like him waving his hand, but I do think I gotta say fine but boring. Still in the desert, we have Dwebble. He's adorable, he's precious, he's perfect. He like has a moment where he goes inside his shell like, oh, did I do something wrong? Perfect. There is so much more movement going on in Crustal's slab than I expected. It's shaking around like a maraca. Maractus, where was this? A little weird on Crustal though. I don't know how much I like it. I think I'll say awkward in motion. Scraggy spends most of his sprite just sort of wiggling up and down, but he has the perfect animation where he lifts up his little skin pants and just lets them drop down. Gosh, it is such a strange looking Pokemon though. Those nostrils are like perfectly positioned to be his eyes. Is he wearing a fez? The pants alone put him into above and beyond. And Scrafty looks so ready to square up. He's got this little mouth animation where like it almost looks like he's chewing gum. It's the most natural and like nicest looking mouth animation I've seen on like any Pokemon so far. The colors are great too. I'm putting him with Scraggy. Sigilif is moving really slowly. It's funny, this Pokemon is awkward in motion, but like it's not the sprite. Like it's not the sprite's fault. It's just that this Pokemon, this design is awkward in motion. I do like that the tail feathers are all like uniquely animated, almost like wind chimes. It is still a bit awkward for me. The mask that Yamask is holding, it's really jittery. Yamask itself is not, it's just the mask. Yeah, that's not pleasant to the eye. I think it's kind of bad. Koffagrigus, on the other hand, is all over the place. I love when he retreats to his coffin. That looks spectacular. The weird like hop and hand movement that he does is wild. I mean, I gotta say full of personality, right? Tortuga has such a lovely floating animation here. Kind of a boring movement. He's not doing much of anything, but it just looks nice. It's really well crafted. You know, boring is boring. Like, he's still going there. It would be unfair to a lot of the other Pokemon I put into boring if I put him up. I just want to highlight it. He looks really good. You remember a million years ago when I was like, how many times have you thought about the Pokemon Pupitar? Caracosta is a Pokemon I constantly forget about. You mostly look okay. That one flipper is kind of bent in a strange way. I think it's enough though to put him into good job. I love Archon's like desperate flaps. Like he just needs to get into the air, but he can't do it. He's struggling. Oh, even his like talon and tails got movement. Full of personality. Archeops too. This one's even more impressive just because of how much detail is here. This is a complicated design with a ton of vibrant colors, yet they really make it work. That flapping looks great. It's like he's struggling to maintain being airborne. I actually think Archeops is perfect. Trubbish's eyes are warping and he's got like extra pixels that are forming underneath his eye. It almost looks like he's crying. Trubbish shouldn't cry. Trubbish is lovely. I don't like it. It's very wrong. Garbodor looks much better. Boy, is he chomping his teeth a lot. All the little bits of trash are like moving by themselves. They're pulsating by themselves. This is a freaky creature. Definitely a good job though. It's funny, Zorua reminds me of a lot of the older Pokemon sprites that we have seen. Very minimal movement, and the special animation is just like a quick pose change and then going back. It looks nice, but definitely boring. Zoroark too, he's almost standing still. He's just kind of like doing a bit of this action. I mean, he gets the extra bonus of like transforming into other Pokemon, so I guess that counts in his sprite work. But no, this idle animation isn't doing it for me. Fine but boring. This one's Minccino, right? It goes Minccino and then Cinccino. Minccino looks Delightful. Very happy. I love the little dance. I love him raising up on one foot and going, hello. Tail on a pivot. We haven't seen that in a little bit, but like the individual tufts of fur on the tail have movement too, making it a little more interesting. I think that's a good job. Cinchino's even better. Elegant, but charismatic. Dancing in place, which is a simple animation, but because of all of the fur, like how all of it interacts just by her bouncing up and down is really cool. I'm gonna say full of personality. Gothita is so small, it's hard to make out any movement without the pixels getting kind of messy. Definitely awkward in motion. Gotharita is a little better. That hop was interesting. Do that again for me? Huh. Yeah, like you just sort of float there for a minute before coming down. That's interesting. I'll say that's good job. And then we got Gothatel, and I don't know, this one's weird. What are those appendages coming out of your head by your ears? I always thought they were just like solid, but the fact that they're like moving? Ugh. Also, you seem so springy. Like this body almost looks like it can collapse onto itself and then spring upward. It's not really conveying to me what this Pokemon is supposed to look like and be, which I suppose puts it into very wrong. Solosis is like bubbling. It's a very jittery motion, like it's not very smooth. Yeah, I'm not entirely loving how it looks. I think this is kind of bad. See, Duosion has it down. That is much better, probably just because it's larger and has more pixels. I love how underneath the goo, the being that is Duosion is just sort of floating independently, and I like how he bounces around from corner to corner. That's a good job. Then Reuniclus, I like how it almost looks like he's controlling the hands like a puppet, and they're just moving like very simple motions, but I think works for what's going on here. This is an interesting Pokemon. I should use this in a run sometime. I don't know if I've ever run Reuniclus before. I think it's full of personality. Ducklet's got like a headbang dance going and then lifts the wing up, presenting the glory that is Ducklet for all to see. The dead eyes really make it. Like, it's not as perfect as Psyduck, I think, but it's definitely still full of personality. Swana's wingspan is crazy. Just that wingspan alone makes this like the biggest sprite that we have looked at so far. The beak opening is a little strange, looks a little off, but like that does not take away from the beauty that is these wings unfurling. Like, that's crazy good. I'm putting that into above and beyond. The sprites have just full on invaded the tier names at this point. Good job is crowded. Vanillite is already precious, but the fact that he also like spits out a little bit of ice and he got some mist forming behind it, like that's incredible. That grin is just amazing. Why are people so mean to the ice cream? I think Vanillite is above and beyond. The mist forming around Vanillish also looks pretty good. The little wobble he does back to forth, well, a little less so. Not as good as Vanillite, but still full of personality. And then Vanillux just has a ton about it to enjoy. The mist coming out of that straw, like, vent is interesting, and like how he vibrates and shakes too, like he has to eject this frost out of him. He's just that cold. I love the reflecting light on the bottom of him. We've not seen anything like that at this point. The biggest criticism I can give is at the top of their heads, the little scoops of ice cream that are on the top of them seem to be animated up and down at a slightly different timing to the rest of the body, and it looks a little off. Regardless of that though, I think this is above and beyond too. Yeah, I'm ice cream biased. What about it? We have 4 different Deerling to look at here, and they all look great. Spring Deerling is my favorite. Pink bias, what are you gonna do? Their animations are all the same, with like really cute ear wag and tail wag. It's a good job. Sawsbuck, meanwhile, is a lot more complicated. The 4 different season styles all have a lot of differing elements to them, and the animation, while not taking spectacular advantage, is still really good. It's like the skeleton of the animation is the same, but they added like little rustles on winter's fur or on the leaves of autumn. It's a very impressive effort. I will definitely say above and beyond. Emolga's flying around on a track doesn't look great, but I do like how it makes the effort to land on the ground before lifting back up again. That is a nice detail that I appreciate, but I still think it's kind of fine but boring. It is so hard to move as a Carablast. There's like nothing you could do but just kind of sit there and hop up and down, which, hey, he's doing. He looks so grumpy too. Like, they really capture the essence of like a guy stuck in a mascot suit that like can't move all that well, so all he can do is grumble and complain. I think this is full of personality. Escavalier looks great. The way he like stabs his lances forward and back, it just like looks really good. Again, a Pokemon with a lot of details and they still managed to nail making it all look natural. Honestly, I'm not sure what else I could ask for here, so I'm gonna give it a perfect. It's a fungus! Again, a Pokemon so small that like some messy pixels are inevitable, but there's not that much. And I love the little Pokeball cap like lowering down. Not a ton going on, so still fine but boring, but you know, nice. Now for a Mungus. The cap's kind of pulsating in a weird way, but I like how he holds up his little Pokeball shield arms. I like him more than Fungus, I'd say, so this is a good job. Frillish really captures the essence of haunting. It's not immediately apparent that these Pokemon are ghost types, but I think through their movements, they're slow, just kind of eerily floating up and down very slowly. It's a really effective way of portraying Frillish, full of personality. That effect is a lot harder to pull off with Jellicent because now we just kind of look goofy. But hey, the bounce up and down still looks nice. The animation's mostly the same, but there are some slight differences, mainly in the face, because, you know, Jellicent female gets a mouth and the male one doesn't. I think I'll just give this one a good job. The fact that Alamamola's fins can, like, do that and, like, reach over itself on the side of its body, don't love that. Beyond that, they're trying to do, like, that 3D movement again, kind of like what they did with Remoraid a while back. Don't think it captures it as strongly here. I think this is a bit awkward in motion. Joltik is perfect. I mean, what more could you ask for? He's super jittery and the hop up and down is like barely a frame, but like for such a tiny Pokemon that's essentially a flea, even at that small size, you can pick up so much of what's going on. Yeah, absolutely perfect. Galvantula's perfect too, I'm sorry. There are so many independent points of animation on this thing that it is wild. All 4 of the legs, both of the little furry arms, all of the fur on the abdomen, just like everything is working in motion, and not a single bit of it looks off. Spectacular job on this line. I'm about to do it again because Ferroseed is also perfect. We mentioned this ages ago, but the spinning here is just top notch. This also might be the longest animation out of all the sprites we've seen because he spins for so long. You almost think that's all he does, but then he even stops for a second. And even though he has no real face, you could almost swear that he's given a chuckle at you. Unbelievably perfect. Ferrothorn is a little stranger. I do love his special animation where like he lifts himself up and then kind of springs down. That looks great, but the weird wiggle that his vines do in his idle animation doesn't look great to me. I think I'm gonna give it awkward in motion. Dude, Chargestone Cave Pokemon, just knocking it out of the park. What more could you want out of Clink? Those gears moving are the smoothest piece of animation I have seen this entire video. I could literally watch that all day. As perfect gets. Clang is not as satisfying, unfortunately. The spin is still really good, but I feel like we lost some frames in transition. I guess a bigger gear means slower spinning. I don't think it looks as nice, but still definitely a good job. Clink Clang really picks up the slack though. Now we've got so many spinning parts that it's like a shock to the system to watch. It's almost a little overwhelming to look at, but I don't think it like hurts the eyes or anything. Like I still think it's animated really well. I'm gonna put this into above and beyond. Tynamo amazes me because this is another small Pokemon that you'd think would be too small to have intricate pixel detail, but like look at this thing. The way the fin is moving looks gorgeous. His mouth opens and closes a little, not like all the way, but a little. But what amazes me most is the yellow line going across his body. It's like glowing and like the light is flowing across his entire body. Absolutely crazy that they got that much detail out of this little thing. I think it's perfect again. Electric is really good too. I love that he's like bouncing on his tail like he's on land. But the way that his spots all light up in electric energy, that just looks so cool. And the fact that he even changes his expression, he gets angrier when that happens. That just looks so cool to me. I'm gonna give this a perfect too. What is happening? I don't think Electros hits the landing though. There's just so much going on here. His tiny little feet doing this dance and like the whole rest of his body, like, I don't know, it looks a little off. I do love that his electric spots glow just like before, like that's great. I think Electros is just a really hard Pokemon to nail how it should move. The 3D animations of later games put him in the water and had him kind of swimming, which I think looked good. The Scarlet and Violet now just kind of have him standing upright with his arms out. Clearly we just can't decide how we want this Pokemon to move. I'm not sure this is it though, so I'm putting it into Awkward Emotion. Elgium is kind of just floating in place. Bit of pixel mess on the head. Doesn't really got much else going on either, so fine but boring. Behium is a little better. Again, tons of little bits of detail on this guy's design, but they all look totally fine, no pixel mess. And he's floating, but like the little bit of arm movement pushes him from fine but boring into good job for me. Litwick is cute, but the swaying back and forth that he's doing, the pixels don't quite like it. There's like 1 or 2 frames where like his entire mouth disappears. Awkward in motion. The pixels are a lot more controlled with Lampent. The unfurling arm actually looks really good, as well as the flickering purple fire inside the lamp. I think it's good enough for a good job. Chandelure is kind of crazy. There's a lot more going on than it looks. You've got 5 independent fires going on. The arms are very thin and very curly. You'd think that some of that Mew tail nonsense would be going on, but it actually looks pretty good. The lines on Chandelure's main like head area do get a little twisty in the pixel department when he sways back and forth, but I'm willing to look past that and say good job. Deja Vu, I think Axew is the same problems that Litwick did. I do think I like the animation just a little bit more, like the independent movement of his arms and legs. Like I do love the little stepping that he's doing. Good job. Fracture, well, ignoring the speed that he's going through. Definitely a bit stiff. He's kind of just in that like T-pose with his mouth open, and he's got one step with his front foot. Not really a whole lot going on. Fine but boring. Haxorus though, oh, he looks big and towering. Lots of little details in the segmented body. I'm kind of reminded of the likes of Tyranitar and Aggron here, but I don't know. I think Haxorus carries it better. Just one look at this thing and I get like terrifying, like menacing. I really think it's a good job. Oh, Cubchoo. I love the little kick that he does, and the big snot bubble, while gross, does go like up the nose and like back down again. He looks really cute. It's full of personality. Beartic, meanwhile, is well put together, but I don't really think he's doing much. You know, he's stamping his feet, moving his arms up and down. Like, it's better than nothing, but kind of boring. This might be a design critique on Cryogonal more than a sprite critique. But man, I look at this thing and I have no idea what's going on. I assume it's floating, as I understand it, Cryogonal floats, but the sprite really makes it look like it's hopping. And are the eyes like behind it or within it? I think this is a me problem though, more than a sprite problem. So I'm just gonna put it into boring and move on. For the other half of the trade duo, Shelmet is pretty normal until the like helmet closes and he jumps up and down like that. That's nice. It's a fun detail. I don't know if it's like amazing enough to put into above and beyond. I think it's just a good job. As for Excelgor, I do like the flowing strands behind him. The jump is very weird. Why isn't he allowed to have legs? It's like he's supposed to be all tough and menacing with his arms crossed, but then the jump just kind of makes him look ridiculous. I think that's awkward emotion. Speaking of looking ridiculous, Stunfisk. It's that chuckle he's got. Oh my goodness. His eyes like squint a little bit. He gets a grin and just sort of like laughs. That really brings him over the bar for me. That's full of personality. Mienfoo looks pretty well done. His idle stance is really well animated and the jump looks good too. He looks ready for battle, which is perfect. So I think he's a good job. Mienshao looks a lot more elegant. He can't move nearly as well. I mean, maybe the pose is a little limiting. Although the trade-off is like the movement is more limiting, but it's very clear like what's going on with this admittedly complicated design. That said, I do still think it's fine but boring. Druddigon looks like he's throwing a tantrum, and then I love that he lifts his arm up and kind of goes like, hey, those are wings on Druddigon, right? I don't know if I've ever seen a Druddigon fly, and like those are where wings would go, but like they look so solid and jagged. But I like the animation. I really like the vibrant colors. You know, I'll give it to him. He's full of personality. Golett is really impressive to me. Beyond just the animation, just like all of the line work and color work really makes this guy look ancient. I love that the eyes like flicker, like he's barely holding on to the power keeping him up. Honestly, I love this. I love this a lot. I think I'm gonna put it into perfect. I've got a lot of similar praise for Golurk. I love how tall he's standing. He's looking down to you. This is a big Pokemon. The fist movement, moving up like that, is a little off. as well as the, like, for lack of a better word, shoulder tilt. Yeah, I don't think I could say is as good as Golett, but it's still good. I'm so glad we're nearing the end. I'm really running out of room. Pawnyard is another example of a very detailed sprite that isn't moving very much. I'm glad that he's got like one little swipe that he does. I wish he did it more. He is blinking. That's a plus. We don't always get our Pokemon blinking. I think it's boring. Bisharp, again, the sprite looks really good, but I suppose because of all that detail, it's a little hard for him to move. I like the swiping animation that his arm does. Looks very commanding, you know, like a leader. I guess it's impressive enough that none of the pixels look off and the animation works, so, you know, I'll give him a good job. Bouffalant is not a Pokemon I think about often, which is wild because I love Tauros. He's got that like double hind kick animation that he does. That's pretty good. He's constantly moving the one hoof in the dirt like he's ready to charge. Even his afro is like puffing. He looks ready for a brawl, and I like it. Full of personality. Rufflet is a little deceiving. He's got so much going on. He's like puffing up his feathers. He's got movement on his top head crest feather. The tail's wagging, the beak is opening and closing. He hops, and both of the feet have individual animation. This is impressive for a really small package. I think it's above and beyond. Aside from the flapping wings, Braviary isn't really doing anything, but the flapping wings look really good. And it gets the idea across, you know? Just the singular pose that he's stuck in, he looks proud and powerful, but you know, he's not doing anything. I think it averages out into a good job. Vullaby, not a lot of movement, but I guess he is kind of stuck in that skull eggshell of his. I like the little hop forward that he does. It's fine. Mandibuzz is so cool. This is not a Pokemon that we see enough of. I'm in love with the pose and the expression. I love that his eye is like looking straight at us. The movement is simple. He's just kind of swaying forward and back, and then he kind of just steps forward as his special, but I still think that's full of personality. Lot of credit to Heatmore for having his flame like tongue lash thing come out. I do really like it, though. There's not really a whole lot else to talk about. I still think it's a good job. Durant's got a lot of movement for a small package. All the legs are animated, the pincers are animated, every segment of his body is animated. There's no pixel mess, he looks really put together. I actually think he's full of personality. That personality being, I'm gonna pinch ya. Dino's pretty charming. I love him kind of like just barking blindly in the dark. I wish we had a bit of leg movement, but honestly, I have everything else that I want. So yeah, full of personality. And we got Zvylus. It's a really good looking sprite. I do love that the mouths are each opening and closing on like a rotation. The wing flapping is all right. The wings also just kind of look like arms. It's well done, but it's kind of unambitious. So I'm gonna say boring. I'm not sure if there's anything more I could have asked for out of Hydreigon. His mouth is opening and closing, and I love the arm movement. He do just kind of look like he's got two sock puppets and he's just moving like this. But it looks good. And I always thought the wing shape was always a little strange, but they look really good in this sprite. I think I'm giving him a perfect. Larvesta, for all intents and purposes, I feel like this is a cocoon. He's just as immobile as one, but wow, they're getting a lot of animation out of him. I love that his tiny little arms are still being animated. I think his legs are too. Like, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I think this is a good job. The last non-legendary Pokemon of this video, Volcarona, and I don't love it. Do you remember Butterfree? Do you remember Butterfree from 1,000 years ago, where the wings didn't look like they were flapping, but instead the shape was just kind of warping to give the illusion of it? That's kind of what we got here, except now there's 6 wings doing it instead of 2. And the rest of the body just isn't really doing much of note. Kind of heartbreaking, but awkward emotion. Cobalion? Is that really all you got? His idle animation, like it barely even looks like his feet are properly planted on the ground. He's moving very slowly. There had to have been more that we could have done here. Maybe I'm just rushing because I'm so close to the end, but like, no, I think it's kind of bad. Terrakionn's okay. It looks better than Cobalion, I'll give him that. The special animation is really doing work, though even that is not all that much. He's just kind of stepping forward and then steps back. I think I'm trying to give him more credit than he actually deserves. Yeah, fine but boring. I think Virizion would have been my favorite of the trio here. I like the one leg in the back having like a lot of independent animation, but the pixels. Look at her poor face. Even ignoring that, it's like every other part of the body except for that one leg is like really stiff. I think this is awkward in motion. Oh, the Musketeers having it rough. These guys are gonna be really weird, right? Because you got their like incarnate forms, which all look identical. They're essentially palette swaps of each other. And then you get their Therian forms, which are completely different. So I'm mainly gonna be judging, I guess, the Therian forms, and for Tornadus, I like them. The wings are doing a lot of work. I love seeing a Pokemon that both has their wings at rest, but then also like fully displays them for us. Beyond that, he's standing proud, and I love to see it. The incarnate form is like spinning around in a circle. I wonder if that's unique to Tornadus. I guess we're gonna find out. Those wings are good enough though that I think I'll put it in above and beyond. Thunderous. Wow, yeah, as it turns out, the incarnate forms do have independent animation. That's impressive. As for the incarnate form, can we talk about what that tail's doing? The way it's like blowing in the wind, that animation's really quick. That's really cool, actually. I think I'll put this right next to Tornadus. Really starting to lag, and I'm just like, hold on, man. We're so close. Just hang in there. Box Legendary Reshiram. He looks beautiful. I love the orange, like, glowing parts, and I love that they're not always there. This is one of the most detailed Pokemon that we're probably even gonna look at today, and it all looks really good. The pixel mess is minimal. I'm really impressed. I think it's perfect. Zekrom, again, similar praise. I love the blue glowing light. It's always been a shame to me that since Zekrom is almost entirely like black in color, that a lot of the details kind of just blend together on a glance. It's hard to make out just how much is going on with everything so cloaked in shadow. But at the same time, like when the glow starts, it's kind of making those details highlighted. It's like it's a silhouette that you only see once the electricity starts to go. Yeah, I'll give it to him. Like, I like Reshiram more, but I think this is perfect as well. We didn't forget Landorus. He just comes after Reshiram and Zekrom in the Pokedex for some reason. I actually think out of the three, this is the least impressive, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure Landorus is like way stronger than the other two. The incarnate form is doing nothing that the other two haven't done, and the Therian form is just the most static and unmoving out of the three. He does have that like lean in and roar, which is cool, but especially since I have the other two as a comparison point, I think he's kind of boring. Where do I even begin with this mess? Kyurem and his alternate forms are easily the most complex designs that we've seen. Looking at base Kyurem by himself, he's stiff but animated well. I like the little stepping animation that he does to the side and back. But the alternate forms, man, wow. It's astonishing to me that there is no pixel mess. Given how much is going on, they all look extraordinarily animated. I love the animation of the like glowing generators on the back of them, and then that power is surging through the wiring into their backs. This was probably a really hard sprite animation to do, and they passed with flying colors, I think. I think I'm gonna give this a perfect as well. Really impressive animation all around. I almost forgot that Keldeo has another form. This Pokemon completely blows the other Musketeers out of the water. How appropriate. The hoof animation when he jumps just looks stellar. And then with the Resolute form, the way he like gets up on his hind feet and just like moves his legs like that, great stuff. A lot more attention and care compared to the others. I'm gonna say above and beyond. Here we have both forms of Meloetta. I love the standard form just kind of like floating there with the hair flowing, and then she like closes her eyes to sing. That's great. The Pierrette form is clearly grounded, doing more like a tap dancing sort of thing. I'm not so educated on these dance styles, but I do think I like it. I think it's a good job. And finally, the last Pokemon that we're talking about today. We're finally here, Genesect. I think there's like the slightest of sprite differences on like the top cannon depending on what drive he has equipped, but like Arceus, I'm not gonna count that. For the final Pokemon today, it's kind of a shame that he's so boring. He's just kind of standing there. He's kind of, you know, like moving his arms a bit. The cannon is swaying. I really wish there was more to say, but sorry Genesect, but you're going into the boring dimension. Ah, we did it. 649 Pokemon counted and listed on this tier list. I'm so tired. Still though, this was really fun. I loved checking all of these animations out. A lot of them really impressed me. This must have been so much work to do on the development end. Like every single one of these sprites, even the wrong ones, like the fact that they're all animated like this, I still really love, and it makes me really love Gen 5 as a whole. And it's really satisfying looking at them all now on the list. Just all animated there. There's so many of them. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was fun. I hope this was as entertaining as I thought it would be when I started. If nothing else, we just got to highlight every Pokemon up to Genesect and talk about them for a little bit. And that alone is really fun. Let me know what you think. Was I wrong in any of my rankings? I'm sure I was. I was going real vibes based, especially at the end. And yeah, that's all for me today. I'll see you guys in the next much shorter video that I'm gonna do. Take care.